3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 66. And you're in for a cracker, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a fantastic guest lined up, and I will just warn you, it is a long podcast, so we're going to make this intro very short and sweet. But I think you'll really enjoy it.
How are we doing, champ?
Yeah, all good. I tell you what, just before we get started, we've got our loyal sponsors back in town. The Burrows Motor Company, local family-owned business with sites in Rotherham, Barnsley, Doncaster, Sheffield, Worksop and York, representing Toyota, Mazda and Kia brands. Burrows Motor Company is large enough to help with any motoring requirement you should have, whilst remaining small enough to retain the family-friendly feel, with each team member working constantly to ensure they offer the best possible service to each customer, whether they've been coming for 10 years or if it's their first visit. So whether you're looking for a new Toyota, Mazda or Kia, or wanting a nearly new or pre-loved used vehicle of a different make and model, Burrows Motor Company is large enough to help source the perfect car for you. Our dedicated team are well known to many of our customers and are just a phone call away. Of course, once you drive away, the service doesn't end there, with great options to help maintain your vehicle in tip-top condition. Our fully manufacturer trained technicians, body shop technicians, parts and service advisors, and our booking team are on hand with any inquiry. Just call in or contact your Nero's Burrows site. And a special offer for Chasing the Racing customers, £250 off any new or used vehicle. So if you're tempted or thinking about buying a new car and you're in any of the local areas that I've just mentioned, pop in, mention Chasing the Racing, and you'll get yourself a nice 250 smackaroonies knocked off the price. So there you go. But getting back to it, I think a lot of people will be tuning into this podcast, obviously, after the first BSB meeting.
Expecting a lot more than what they're going to get.
I put a picture on the other day of Josh saying we've got him lined up, and I think everyone's expecting like the crack to be after the race weekend, like thoughts on the race weekend. Unfortunately, we actually did the podcast on the Friday night before any of the racing started, so it's sort of pre.
And before anyone says it, we're not a jinx, right? We are not a jinx.
But we'll basically, our plan is we've already recorded the conversation. It's about 2.5 hours or slightly longer.
I was about to say.
So we could talk for England now about all the weekend. We'll Superbikes MotoGP.
We've been doing that for 66 episodes.
But we're gonna leave that until after the weekend, and
yes.
You're going to be away racing this weekend, which we'll get onto in a second. But we'll lump all the recent crack into the next podcast. But for this podcast, it's all about Mr. Josh Brookes. And just before we get onto the interview, obviously I've just mentioned the fact that you're going to be racing in the first UK road race of the 2020 season. Obviously down at Scarborough. If you're listening to this before Friday, Saturday, Sunday, tickets are still available on Duke Marketing. You just need to go on, get yourself an e-ticket,
which is actually brilliant. So you don't have to. You can get them through the post, but it'll be a bit late now because what are we now? Wednesday. Yeah. Wednesday at the moment, and obviously this Friday it's
emailed straight to your phone, nice and easy to get in.
Bang it over and straight in through the door.
Absolutely mega. Are you looking forward to the weekend?
To be honest, mate, it really hasn't quite sunk in. It's it'll be the same for you. You know, it's all happening for everyone, like absolutely immediately. It's going from no one's allowed out to play, you're not allowed to do anything. Now all of a sudden it's just absolutely flat out. But I'm struggling to sit here and talk about what's coming. I'm so excited about this next podcast, like about how well you have done. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here about. Hold on, let's tease a few people here. Let's tease a few people, Chrissy. I'm sitting across with the championship leader. One of three. That does not matter.
A bit of a trilogy going on there, but yeah, I'll take it. Especially after the problems that we had over the weekend.
Jesus, so. But that, like I say, we'll jump into that straight away. But it's oh yeah. So this weekend coming, it's going to be one hell of a roller coaster. And hold on, I wrote this down because I'm bloody useless, and Sean will be listening. It's the 1946 Marshall Association, and they're still, right now, we've just been off the phone with them, and they're still setting up the track at the moment. Mm-hmm. And what I'm excited about is the fact that they've kind of set up a BSB platform. This is the first time that we're having a Friday test day. Right. Normally, you turn up, you get 5 laps, and that's including your qualifying, and then you're straight into the racing for the whole weekend.
Wow.
And have you been a spectator a couple of times around there?
Yeah.
And as you know, that first corner, that front row is 100% crucial to get a win. Mm-hmm. it just hairpins over.
I didn't actually know that, but obviously I think that'll massively suit you because at the one of the things that I think you've been trying to work on is getting up to speed quicker. Cause like say the TT, you go there, you have a full week's practice, and then by the time racing comes around, you're so accustomed to what you're riding and what the track and everything. Where to turn up, like for example, I'm used to just going straight out, and at BSB you might get one practice session and then you're straight into it. Where like say when you're doing Thundersport or No Limits or whatever, you get like 6 20 or 20 minute sessions on the Friday, and
because you want to get like 45 minutes at a pop, don't you?
Yeah, and you can spend all day chipping away and like getting your settings where you sort of, but like you've just said, this on Friday getting a test day will massively play into your hands, and
I think it'll play in everyone's hand. I think it's a very good safety feature as well.
Definitely,
and it'll take away all the stress, and like yourself, you're like, oh, you're so tight on the bike and your body gets tired immediately. I think a lot of people will be saying, oh, that's a bit dangerous, everyone will go faster. But the mad thing about this sport is the faster you go, the safer it becomes. That is totally backwards knowledge, because when you're going fast, you're smooth, you're calm, you're confident, and it's going to hurt at 80%, never mind 100%. So you might as well give everyone more time on the bike, more time to get accustomed, and just everyone to get more relaxed. And I think, Oliver's Mount, I think they've massive stepped that up, and they're improving all the safety features. And the one thing that Oliver's Mount have got to contend with, right, is the fact that this is a road race. And by that, they've got to work with the councils. Mm-hmm. So MSV, it's a closed situation. Now, the way they dealt with it, even, no spectators, and it's spectator sport, but it's absolutely brilliant to have the BSB on, and it's brilliant at all these club meetings like the CRMC, No Limits, Thundersport. They've done an outstanding job. But that is in a closed environment. Mm-hmm. Oliver's Mount have got to contend with it's a public, it's the councils, so you can imagine how stressed they're going to be on this one.
But so what's the crack? Is it 2,000 or 2,500 a day or something?
Yeah, 2,500 per day, so you can get tickets for separate days throughout, but they're separating the paddocks. The paddocks are proper restrictive, as far, it's like one rider. I think it's one rider, 2 mechanics. It's in the regs. So I think they're gonna have to flex that slightly, We're not taking the piss, and it's like getting bikes prepped, and there's gonna be a couple more. But normally, you bring the girlfriend, you bring the dog, you bring the mistress, you bring everyone.
Girlfriend and the
mistress. You're in that paddock, and you're on that paddock. Just you two play nice, but no. So it's normally you bring all your support. But this time it's gonna have to be a bit more restrictive, which is totally understandable. But no, I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. But I tell you what, I do not want to be in their shoes.
Just a little teaser. What bikes are you riding?
I am mainly on for the Cowton team. So they are providing me a lovely ZX6R, which I've tested at Cadwell. Absolute flyer of a bike, because I ran my own bike last year, and it lacked the ponies. That's the bottom line of it. This thing, it felt like I've been riding classic bikes at the moment. That thing felt like a bloody 1,000. It was like, Jesus, wept, this thing's howling. And I'm also on James Cowton's ER650. It's not the 650 Ninja, the new one. Mm-hmm. And I'm also on an absolutely beautiful NSR 250 2-stroke, proper singing, all dancing, proper.
John Chapman's
bike, and I mean he's got a smile like a Cheshire cat on him. I've got a smile. Even the Davies team, like Colin and John, they're looking after the bike for John Chapman. And no, I think everyone's just dead excited. I think everyone's just excited. I just think it's the unknown element of turning up with the paddock at the moment.
I seen John the other day. I can't repeat what he said because I think his favourite words a little bit would have to bleep out.
I know, and that's coming from our show and Alan. We love a bit of natural, pub crack, don't we? A little bit. I tell you what, that's my favourite thing. Loads of people come to me and say it's like sitting in the pub. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the pub with a guy that doesn't drink alcohol, so this is great for me.
I've got my beer,
ginger beer, good lad. But no, I'm thoroughly looking forward to the weekend, and but I tell you what, people are coming out that everyone's been on the quiet about who's putting the entries in and stuff like that, and the competition is looking hellish steep. I mean, properly. Lee Johnson's making an appearance. Dean Harrison's making an appearance. Jamie Coward, I think he's only on a Super Twin, but he's on the Super Twin, and he is one hell of a pilot. Jamie's lost at least 18 stone. He's had a shave. He's looking trim. He was unbelievably fast when he was fat. So when now he's trimmed it all off, he's unstoppable. Jamie's full of confidence. He's a hell of a pilot, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to going out racing him. James Hind, you know him. He's the one who binned us off. No, Hopefully we'll get you in the paddock and we'll get him interviewed, and it'll be good to get his story. But he's with Ian Locker. Ian Locker's racing as well. Aussie Express are turning.
Ian Locker's the most successful person ever around Scarborough.
So James has definitely stepped into the right team on the right bikes.
Absolutely perfect step from that.
And it really is. And I've not met James yet, but the good thing is that the paddock is a small place, and everyone is so highly complimented of James. How nice of a person he is, and down to earth. And I think you'll blend really well with Ian, because Ian's more laid back than a deflated Lilo. When you speak to him, he's like, make it sound like a stoner, don't I? But no. And RC Express are turning up with Rob Hodgson on their R6. I'm trying to think the field. Mike Norbury with DC Racing. Now, I've said this time and time again, and your results are showing this. A happy lad is a fast lad, and Norbury loves that track. And when Norbury's getting on some competitive machinery,
I'm not surprised he's happy.
Oh yeah, right. We're going to discuss these facts after. We're going to have to discuss these things. But no, it's
smiling like a Cheshire cat.
I bet he is after 10 minutes of that. But anyway, no, the fields are looking strong. But they're my mate Chicken Charlton's there, Kevin Barsby's there. It's going to be a proper a family field, and it's going to be fast stuff.
I'm actually testing myself on Saturday, but I'll be coming down to support you on Sunday. Me and the piglet.
I was about to say, well, hold on. Can you announce what your plans are with Josh Daly and another certain rider?
So this weekend I'm going down to do the No Limits Endurance again. So me, Josh Daly and Ian Hutchinson are going
5 times in a row winner, TT winner, Ian Hutchinson.
Aye.
Oh, brilliant.
And we're going to do a 3-hour endurance race. So really, I wanted to ride the bike at Open Park just to make sure that my gear runs somewhere close, and my suspension and whatever. So I'll get 2 stints, and just it'll give us a much better idea going into the BSB race weekend, where we are with gearing and setup and stuff. So yeah, really pleased to be doing that. But I tell you what,
we'll have to just jump.
We'll have to get on with the interview. Really enjoyed. It's the first time that I've met Josh, and his lovely Mrs. Amy, and it was really nice to sort of get to know them and have a little bit of crack beforehand and what have you. And lovely people, really, really down to earth, nice people, and I enjoyed the chat.
It was a shock for me.
What was the surprise?
Well, no, the surprise that I think he says it throughout this whole interview, and how he's quite it's just he borderline from a distance. Never judge as your mother. Our mothers taught us, Chris. You never judge a book by its cover, but you do when you think, he's a bit stern, he's a bit hard faced. I'm like, let's stay clear of him, kind of thing. But no, I genuinely enjoyed this interview, and I think you lot are as well, all our listeners.
Fantastic. So without further ado, over to PBM Ducati, and you've got to say championship favourite, Mr. Josh Brookes. Every single podcast that we've done this year, I always ask, so who do you fancy for the BSB Championship? And every single podcast that we do, you always get mentioned under that bracket. So we're honoured to be joined by Josh Brookes. How are you doing?
Thank you. Glad to be here. Actually, it's a great privilege to have people mentioning my name when.
Can we go again? That is blatantly a lie. Wow, that is a hell of a compliment to start this off with. Jesus wept. You've caught me off guard, Josh.
Before we start, is it true? Is Leslie of Benidorm your mother? Is that?
Good looking woman, to be fair.
Is that Denise Walsh? Is it? The short blonde hair.
It could be. I've got some questions.
You'll have to Google it.
I've got some questions to be asking when I get home from this one, isn't it? Yeah.
Google it.
I think you're going to have to take the reins on this interview, Chrissy. My mind is blown away right now. There you go. Speaking of cheap shots, what's up with that haircut? What the fuck's up with that, young'un?
Well, I've always tended to try and do things the opposite of everyone else. Like if the common thing is to have short hair, I'll grow it long. If everybody's growing long hair, I'll go short.
Moustache.
The moustache. I just try and catch people off guard. And
that was outstanding.
And I'm actually born in the 80s, and the 80s was pretty cool. So it's like a 80s throwback. But sorry, where we started was I listened to you guys. I was driving to Scotland, of all places, and at a long drive, and I was listening to you guys, and I thought what you're doing was really good. So I thought I need to get in contact. And what happened, the reason I've given you a jab straight off is because
you know what's coming.
I messaged you and it was just got crickets. I got nothing. So I then 100%. If I had my phone, I'd show you the message. And unless you got like 5 profiles on Facebook, because one of the profiles of yours I sent a message to and I got nothing. So then I messaged Chrissy and straight back. So
Diggs here. Well, as a fan of the podcast, we've got you a little present, little Chasing the Racing mug.
Thank God you brought a present, because I feel like a right dick right now. There we go.
No, it's all right. And I have another go at you too, because you said you... Because I was listening to the Christian Eden one, and you says, "Oh, I don't know him. What's he like?" And I was thinking,
that's called an interview tactic. You know what I mean? You've got to try and spice it up a little by some lies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I was feeling a bit hurt. I was like, oh, I did meet him. I met him at the Burnout event with Norton, and we didn't.
I drank all the table wine, right?
Yeah,
and
okay.
I hallucinated this fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I went home and said, "I've met Josh Brookes," again, shut up, Dominic, you're lying. Twat. Whatever. I'll tell you what. From that evening, I remember standing on your missus' dress in the queue, and I just went, "Well, this is going down well, isn't it?" I thought Josh is going to.
Well, her dress shouldn't have been on the floor.
Hold on, now this has gone a little bit weird. She was wearing a long dress.
Oh, okay. Got that clear.
For our listeners here, they are nothing seeded's happened here. She is a good-looking woman, but she's got high standards. Look at you. My God, let me get my tongue out your ass and let's carry on with this interview.
Yeah.
Please, Chrissy, rescue this.
Obviously, you mentioned growing up in the 80s, originally from Australia. Whereabouts in Australia are you from?
So I'm from a little town called Bringelly. It's or as Jack Bernicle always mispronounces it, Bringelly, but it's not. It's got a G in it, but it's pronounced Bringelly. It's an hour directly west of Sydney Airport. So if you flew into Sydney, you'd drive in your car directly west for an hour and you'd be in my area. It's kind of like rural. It's farming. There's cows and big properties and paddocks. Although the city's dramatically growing out towards us now, when we grew up, people would often come to stay and they go, wow, you live a long way out here in the sticks. And it's not really. Yeah.
And a lot of the lads that come over here from Australia, I remember especially when I was younger, there was a lad called Matt Davies, and he was big into flat track, and then he wanted to start road racing, a little bit like Casey Stoner, and there wasn't really the sort of infrastructure, the series over there, so therefore they came over. Did you do sort of flat track and stuff as a youngster?
Yeah.
Is that the main discipline that you started?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how far back we want to go, but my brother got...
Let's go back to this mullet, the 80s, youngin. Let's go all the way.
I got an older brother by 4 years, so and I got an older sister by 6 years. So first there was a horse, and then my brother was born, and he said, I don't want a horse, I want a motorbike. So my dad's like, that's cool, well, let's get motorbikes. So then I was born, and there was already bikes in the family. So we just rode for fun in fields, and then we went racing, and the rest is history. We're here now, racing. But
Wow, that was the quickest interview ever about Josh Brookes.
When did you get onto the tarmac?
But yeah, the question was about the dirt bike. So I raced motocross from 88 up until about 98. But in 93 and 94, I rode a bit of dirt track, as you're talking about, because my dad thought, well, a lot of the road races progress from dirt track, short circuit, as we call it in Australia, which is dirt circuit racing. And so he got me into that. But in Australia, they had a lot of oil-based tracks, so they literally poured oil. I know it's great for the environment, but oil comes out the ground, so they were trying to put it back in.
Eco warriors.
Yeah.
There we are.
So what they do is they pack it down with a roller and put oil into the dirt and make it smooth. Like literally, it's nearly as grippy as tarmac sometimes when it's really well prepped. And you run soft tyres, and it builds up loads of heat in the tyre, and the tyre gets sticky and grips to the dirt. And the oil actually packs it in. I think the oil has like a chemical reaction with the rubber as well, makes it like really grippy. So we did that, but obviously you get dirt and oil all over your bike. And as a kid, I had to do all the maintenance myself, and I hated washing dirty oil off the bike. It was like
it just clagged
yeah. And if you, I didn't know about degreaser and all those sorts of chemicals. I was just using like normal soap and trying to scrub it and just smearing the oil all over the plastics. And I was like, I said to Dad, I don't want to do dirt track anymore, purely because of the washing, the maintenance of the bike. I was just a kid. He made me do everything. So
what age was this then?
I'm
just trying to get
I must have been, it was 93 and 94, so I was 10.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I was 10 doing dirt track. I did win some like long track championships, but they were like literally an oval. It was a big oval without any turns, and it was more on like a traditional dirt or granite base. And I won a couple of championships in Australia for that in my age bracket, and I got second a few times. I even rode like a sidecar, swung on the side of a sidecar in dirt track, but that was on the short circuits with the oil-based ground. And I did like loads of stuff, but I was kind of still, my heart was more in motocross than the short circuit stuff. But it was fun. When you're a kid, you do anything. You don't care. You're happy to ride your bike in a field. So if there's a start line, you're even more happy. Definitely. So it was just, I just sort of like veered back to motocross until about 98. And I was kind of young. I was kind of small for my age. So everyone I kind of grew up with took on this growth spurt and went on to 125 motocross bikes and really started hauling. And I got injured. I did my ACL just as that transition period. And so I was about 13, did my ACL, and then got onto a 125, and I was, like I said, short. So I was like at the start line, one leg like half on the bike with a wooden block to try and, have enough height to hold it. And I was just never going to beat the guys in my category after having like months off. I was just way behind the 8-ball, and I kind of got a bit fed up with motocross. And then it was purely by chance, a guy called Tony Hatton, who won the 1979, I think it was, Suzuka 8-hour. He had started bringing in these junior category bikes. His concept was a junior series in Australia, and it was imported from Japan, Moriwaki 80. So they had a CR80 engine, and they were based on some sort of Japanese road bike. So it was a small, easy maintenance race bike, and he brought a shipping container in and started a road race series. And it was exactly at that point where I was like, I'd had enough of getting injured at motocross, and this series started up, and I was the right age to go into it. It was pure luck. It just happened that way. And then I did a year and a bit in that, and then I was 16 and I got an RS 125 and went Grand Prix 125 in Australia.
Is that as in like the BSB equivalent?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing like BSB. Australian Championships kind of like club racing compared to BSB, but there's loads of fast riders. It's always produced. Is that
still now? Kind of.
Yeah, there's just no money in it. You don't get crowds. It's not televised. It's like, I don't want to get into the politics of Australian superbikes, but it's a good series of like the mechanics are really clever. The bikes are really well prepped. But the budget's low and there's no crowds, and most people are turning up with a van and pulling their bikes out of a van. There's no, like, there are trucks with like official support from manufacturers, but it's just not what you get in BSB. It's a shame because I'd love to see Australia produce more good riders, but it just doesn't.
It all come here.
Yeah, well, that's it. Everybody literally comes here to try and get their chance because they know if they stay in Australia they'll just rot. So it is a shame, and I hope when I'm finished racing I can do something to try and put back into the sport, but we'll see. That's another story. We'll do another podcast.
That I was about to say, there's an exclusive, but you're coming here to tell everyone on that one there.
So when you obviously got to a certain level and there was sort of no more competition there, did you always think, I'll go to the UK and like?
No, I was against riding in the UK. I looked at the tracks because I guess like that's all when we're learning and we make mistakes. You brake too late, you get it all wrong, bike's out of control. You just go, I'll just run off. So in Australia, there's loads of places to run off. Every track's pretty much got loads of fields that you just go, I got that wrong. I just sail off into the distance, wait for the bike to slow down on what's pretty much dirt because there's barely any rain out there. Turn once the bike gets slowed.
I've got this image of you just disappearing into the horizon.
Yeah, you do. Some people do it. I mean, it's
like Croft.
No brakes, no
brakes. Yeah.
If you get it wrong at Tower Bend, you just go straight
ahead
in the field. Yeah, that's our local track at Croft. By the way.
Yeah. So that's what I got used to. And then when I saw British Superbikes on TV, and I was like, wow, there's just like when you look at Alton Park from an Australian rider's perspective and you watch them come onto the start-finish straight, you just see Armco barriers and fences, you just think, wow, these guys are mental, I'm not going anywhere near it. So I was completely feared of BSB. I wasn't coming here for anything.
That's amazing because we're talking to a TT right now.
Things change.
Things change. We're going to get into the TT thing later on, but this is brilliant.
So okay, let's go through it. Okay, so I was racing
therapy time.
I was racing Australian 125s. It was just me and Dad, and we literally started with a stock RS 2000 year model RS 125, bog stock, unleaded fuel. Raced it first round. Second round, I got a JHA cylinder head and ignition. Next round, I got a motor bum, cylinder, and exhaust. And the next round I got airbox. And it was literally, as the year went on, we could afford more things to put on the bike.
Who was the domineering part of this? You know what I mean? Because a lot of like kids grow up with their dads who have raced and stuff.
Oh, no, my dad...
Was it just a case of you two just sat around the dinner table and went, right, time to reach into the pocket. We need an airbox.
My dad was the financer and I was the brains of it. I sort of steered it. That guy Tony Hatton that I mentioned that raced, he obviously saw that we had some ability from when we were in this junior class, and he tried to help. So he was like, well, the first thing you need to do is just get used to the bike and see if you're any good, and then don't spend all your money at once, you'll be broke and disheartened. So he sort of, he was kind of what dictated what we did.
That sounds similar to when I started racing, and we always used to have a laugh about this because I would be looking at things, and like, for example, you could get like an upgraded, like clutch or whatever it was, and I would always say to my dad, it's worth it, and he would go, it's worth it for you, all right, I'm paid for it. And I always used to say it's worth it, and like, obviously, of course it was worth it to me. He was
100%. So I don't really know what my dad spent. Obviously he spent everything he could, but we literally bought things as we could afford it. And I got second.
Is your dad still broke now? Is he?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, 100%. But I learned. I'm talking about like not in the 90s, right? So I was racing motocross, and my dad was doing the maintenance, and I had a kind of patterned square, horrible lever on the left that had been replaced by the one I broke, and plastics were all scuffed and snapped from where it fell off like months before, and you wheel the bike up to scrutineering, and it'd just get through. And I was one day sitting there, I looked at this kid's dad wheel the bike out of a trailer. It was a KX80, and he wheeled it out of the trailer and started wheeling it down to scrutineering, and I could see the sun glistening off every spoke, and the plastics was like new, and it had stickers perfectly arranged, and I was thinking, wow, when I can get to a bike like that, that would be awesome. And then I thought, well, the only reason I haven't got that is because I haven't done it myself. My dad's not going to all of a sudden start being good at mechanicking. He's not at his age. He's not going to develop skills. What I've got is the best he can offer.
Did he develop sarcasm at this age? You know what I mean? Dad, you seen his bike? How nice is that, Dad? If you put your back into it, Dad, this is what we'd
could have. Yeah. It was literally like I saw that bike, and that sort of dawned on me that the only way bikes are going to get better for me is if I start to do it. So I literally just started like asking questions like an annoying kid. What does that do? How do you do that? How come? Why? But why? But why? Until I started learning stuff. But then, now it's become a blessing because I know so much about mechanical side. So that's sort of how it started. I got into learning about the bikes and just learned of everybody I knew. And then as I went into 125s and things like that, I knew quite a lot about the bikes. Also, I got a job in there's a place. It's kind of like a K-Tech suspension. It's called Racetech. It was an Australian distribution for Racetech products. It was a suspension specialist store, and it was about, say, 7 miles from my house. So I went there one day to get my bike, tried to attempt to get it set up because we always just rode on standard suspension. And the guy there said, I'm pretty busy today. If you just leave your bike with us, you'll come back tomorrow. And I says, would it help if I stripped the bike for you and just got the suspension out of it so you were ready to, would that help? And he says, yeah, crack on, there's the tools, do what you need to do. So he'd kind of turned away and done a couple of things himself. When he turned around, I'm standing there with the forks and shock, and he's like, do you want a job? And I was like, yeah, all right, because I was still thirsty for knowledge. So I started working there, and at first Mum was driving me there every morning, afternoon, or after school, and then weekends. And then I guess she got fed up with driving, so then I got a bike. I wasn't licensed, I wasn't old enough. I must have been like 14 or something. So I bought a CB 250 out the paper and just rode it to and from the workshop. And
how long were you riding this illegally?
Well, until I was 16. So a couple of years.
Good solid couple of years on the back wheel going to work.
No, not the back wheel. I couldn't get on the back wheel. I did try, but I couldn't get. But the road, it's called Greendale Road. It's quite almost like the TT kind of layout type of a road. It's under trees and it's like back and forth, beautiful bit of road. And so I rode that back and forwards every day. And it's like, so I was on the road all the time and trying to get the absolute limit out is because there's no traffic where I live is quite rural, so there's almost never see a car on the way to or from work. So that's why I was confident to ride a bike illegally. I didn't wear any protective clothes, just a helmet and go, because I'd literally get out of bed 5 minutes after I was meant to be at work and try and make up the time. And then We're getting way off track here.
No, this is much better than any other crop. This is fantastic.
I think that's what you said when I said 8:30, and both you and the missus said, "Are you sure you can have time?"
No, this is brilliant.
So yeah, I'd just ride as fast as I could to work and just use every bit of the road. And the CB would like literally, once I got to top gear, it wouldn't go out and it would just stay on full throttle all the way till I had to brake for the gate to turn in. It was just like, it was just mint. It was just good fun for a young kid. It was like the best thing. And I wasn't probably even speeding because the bike was so slow. But anyway, so I did that for 4 years. I worked there and I learned loads about suspension and like chassis and, you know, all that sort of important stuff that's for today.
Was that just in the workshop, or did you go work with You know, I'm just trying to get...
Yeah, no, work with teams.
Work with teams to get more knowledge out that way and everything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, 100%, because it was funny, like the team, one day I went with my boss to Eastern Creek, which is a racetrack in Sydney. Grand Prix used to go there in 96, 97 it went back to Phillip Island. We're talking probably before you guys are born. So we went to Eastern Creek to help the official team Yamaha set up their bike, and the following year I was beating them in races, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, they didn't know at the time, but it's funny how it all works out. But yeah, I did learn stuff. I went to racetracks with with my boss to work on bikes and learn loads of stuff about like being on the other side of the fence. Mm-hmm. So then, to try and get back to where we were, I was on a 125 and racing Australian Grand Prix series, like championship class. So in the Australian Superbike series, I was in the 125 category, and I got second by 2 points. But there was one round, in my defence, there was one round where I was leading at Phillip Island by 4 seconds and blew the engine up, because anyone that knows old two-stroke 125s, with some of the airboxes, I had this little valve in, so when you rolled off the throttle, the air still run into the airbox, loaded up the carburetor and pushed fuel into the engine. So then when you'd go to get on the throttle, it was all fat and burbly. So then people would go leaner and leaner and leaner to fix this horrible problem, and then seize on partial throttle. So the way to fix that was, when you close the throttle, the vacuum in between the carby and the engine closed off a little valve that shut your fuel, basically turning your fuel tap off, so that on closed throttle it wouldn't load the carburetor up. But in the wisdom of my mechanic, he thought the thring was too strong inside the valve. He knew better than the Japanese, of course. So he got these springs made in Australia, because Australia is known for making fantastic springs. So he got these springs made locally. There is some sarcasm if you haven't picked it up.
Oh, no.
And so I'm wide open at Phillip Island on a 125, which is a long time to be wide open on a 125, just waiting to get down to turn one. And the vacuum from just being full throttle was enough to shut the fuel off, and it just melted the piston and damaged the cylinder. So nothing happened. I didn't crash, but that was a guarantee. I think I was 4 seconds out in the lead on a 125 race. Yeah. So I lost 25 points and lost the championship by 2. No, I'm not bitter about it.
It's not like you cling on to these things.
No. The best thing is just to leave it go. So I did that year, got second, dealt with this problem. And so then I was like, what are we going to do next year? And then I was already, because it's 2000, so MotoGP was already going to 4 strokes. So I was kind of like, I was in this rut of like, I'm going to race 125s, 250s, 500 Grand Prix, I'm going to be world champion. And then I was like, already at the 125 stage, like, nah, this ain't going to happen. Because I was too big for a 125, didn't have any money, and 2 strokes was almost a dead series. So we were like, oh, let's go super sport. So contacted everybody that was running super sport teams, and in Australia it's not like there's, say, you know, like you've got a middle ground like an Appleyards team that would maybe pick someone up with some quality, and then you could maybe move on to a higher ranked team that doesn't really have that stepping stones. It's kind of like official teams running superbikes, and everyone else is just turning up for themselves in a van. It's all privateers. There's no kind of half-teamed sort of deals.
See, at the moment, the more I discover about the BSB paddock, it's more how many people actually pay for a ride in racing.
Yeah.
Now, in that case, back then, was that a case
I don't know about here, but in Australia...
No, I mean, in Australia, was it a case of, like, you turned up with your own bike, fully privateer, or you got paid.
That was the two ends of the spectrum. Wow. Yeah, it was like full privateer, turn up with a van, your dad or a mate, or you were racing for a team that turned up with a truck and they put the carpet out and put the bikes in and did all the mechanic work. Yeah. So I contacted all the teams that ran supersport bikes, and they were like, oh no. And this was the the mentality of people in 2000 in Australia. They're like, 2-stroke riders can't go to 4 strokes. It's just, it doesn't happen. Anyone that can ride a 2-stroke doesn't know how to ride a 4-stroke. So you've got to do your 4-stroke like apprenticeship. And I was like, it's my first year in proper racing. I've come second when I should have won. I told you about that, but no. And
no, tell it again.
Yeah, and I got nothing. So then Dad was like, well, maybe we can try and do it on our own. And then this guy is an English fella living in Australia, literally just by chance says, you seem like a good kid. I'd like to help you out. I'll buy 2 motorbikes, and you can race them all year. And at the end of the year, I'll sell them to get my money back. And he said, but you pay for crash damage, tyres, fuel, all the, travelling expenses. So we did that. We bought 2 GSXR 600s, or he bought 2 GSXR 600s for 2001, and we went and raced Supersport, and I won the championship. So it was just me and Dad and a mechanic, or we got a guy who paid him, I think it was like $100 a weekend, and he came and helped out. And yeah, we won the championship. And then the following year, I got a contract with Honda Australia, because they had put all their money into World Supersport. Honda Australia had a race team, and they pulled out in 2001 and went to World Supersport with Adam Ferguson, with a German team called, I can't remember it, anyway, I won't waste time there. So then they bailed out of that because they thought it was a waste of time, and they come back to Australian Superbikes, and they were going to set up and relaunch their own team, and I was signed on to ride Superbike and Supersport for them. So, but in November, I got a phone call, it might have even been after November. So I'd told, and I got great pleasure out of this, all the people that I'd rang trying to get Supersport ride
were screaming your name.
Were screaming, oh, would you ride for us? And I was like, I'm not really that interested. Because
how many zeros can you put on that bit of paper suddenly?
So I was convinced I was going to go and ride for Honda, and signed the contract, everything was good, and then they pulled out at like the 11th hour, and they're like, oh, you're not contractually obliged to do anything, you're free to do what you want now. And I'm like, I've already told everyone else to do one in October.
Yeah, cheers, mate. That's a huge weight off my shoulders.
Yeah. So I knew that there wasn't any spaces, left to go. So I was like, all right, okay, well, let's negotiate a middle ground. I says, right, obviously you got some budget, some motivation was there. I says, what can we do? Let's just try and mingle something together. So they paid a mechanic's wages, they supplied the bikes, and I think it was 10,000 Australian worth of non-Honda parts budget, and
you've done well out of that.
All Honda parts, any Honda parts were covered. So I raced for them and got second in the Australian Superbike Championship.
Who was that to?
Sean Giles. You probably wouldn't know him. Yeah. I could say names, but you wouldn't know them. They're all Australian people, but they're decent.
They're our next guest, funny enough.
Yeah.
So that's it.
And then I moved. Are you happy to hear the story
I'm
as it
loving
goes?
this, man. I don't care if any of these YouTubers podcasts. I'm loving this. So carry on.
So then I moved. Then the 2003, the team that was supposed to happen in 2 did eventuate. So off of the good results we got by coming second in the championship, which was a semi-privateer team, all that got all the balls rolling for the following year to have a proper race team. So I raced Supersport and Superbike in the same season. That was a normal thing to do back then in Australia, or even now. You normally race 2.
So, dumb quick question out of nowhere. Can you do that now in BSB?
I inquired about it a couple of years ago because I wanted to do it. When I was riding for Philip Neal, I wanted to race Supersport with Sealy and race Superbike.
Yeah, what was any reason behind why you did that?
I can't remember what the answer was. I think it was yes from Philip Neal. From Stuart Higgs. I think it was a no from Philip Neal.
All right, there we go.
It is possible.
It is possible.
Nobody
I
really
think
does
so, but no one really does. I don't know why, but I loved it because
cheddar,
I got on the Superbike and it gave me so much kind of flow from the Supersport, and then I got back on the Supersport and I feel like I'd rip its handlebars off. It was just like one helped the other, and so it wasn't negative at all. So I was signed up to ride Supersport and Superbike, but we went to, so in Australia's massive place, there's states. So there's a state series. So we went to the Victorian title. So Victoria is the state that Phillip Island is based in Melbourne City. So we went to Victoria for one of their state rounds. So it's kind of club level event, but it was a weekend before the opening round of Australian Superbike Series. We went there for like a warm-up practice, kind of like get in the rhythm before the big deal starts. Well, I hit the back of Cameron Donald You know who he is.
Yes.
There's the track's called Winton. There's a big, long, sweeping turn, and then it changes direction quite abruptly to the right. And all through practice, I'd been on my own, do my traditional thing, stick to my own thing, don't follow anyone, don't want to know anyone else was on the track. So I was flying through, and at the opening lap of the race, the first race, he was leading, and I was in second behind him. And in the change direction, he must brake or something in the middle of the change of direction to help the bike change, where I was staying on the throttle. Because I'd never been on the track with him before, I was fully expecting him to go the same speed I was. But right in the middle of the turn, I just ran into the back wheel of him, and it just caught his back wheel with as we were changing direction, my wheel was on the wrong side of his, and I went down, landed on my collarbone, broke my collarbone. I was like, bastard. So
that's putting it politely. No, that was putting it politely.
So I drove home, which is like a 9-hour drive, and then Monday I went and seen a specialist. Tuesday went in for an operation, stayed in overnight. Wednesday got out. Thursday flew to Adelaide, which is another state. Or South Australia's a state.
Put Australia on a map here for a second. How many miles are we talking? This must be hundreds.
I don't know in miles. It's in kilometres, isn't it? But it's a 14. Say it was a 9-hour drive from Winton to home because I'm in Sydney, and then it was a 14-hour drive from Sydney to Malala, the circuit was called. But I didn't drive. I flew, and the team obviously took all the bikes and everything. So I turned up. I flew on Thursday with an expectation to ride on Friday morning practice, and I got there and they had a replacement for me because they'd seen me crash the weekend before. And well, that's Josh out, so they got, you should know him, Kirk McCarthy. He raced in British Supersport years ago. He was Australian Superbike champion in '94 or '95. I think Gobert was '94 and he was '95. Anyway, he was standing there. And I'm like,
smiling.
I seriously didn't like him straight away. I'm like, who's this bloke? And they're like,
princess in the corner. What's he doing here?
And they're like, well, there's no way you can ride. And I'm like, well, why would I be here if I wasn't planning to ride? And they're like, oh, well, do 10 push-ups if you think you can ride. So I did 10. And they're like, you're still not riding. So then I was going mad. So they said, all right, we'll let you ride the Supersport bike, but you're not riding the Superbike because obviously Supersport's a bit less physical. So I was like, all right, fair dues. So that was the compromise we come to. Race Supersport, I think I got second or third in the first race and then crashed out of second or third in the second race onto my... They still got the scars here.
So how did the collarbone last?
No, it was fine. It was fine. Literally, it was just fine. Just a cheeky little low side on the front. So it was actually someone had blown up during the weekend and there was a load of cement dust into that right-hander. So it wasn't really the best grip. But it was probably fatigue and a lot of things. End of the day, tired, sore shoulder, bit of dust, all those combinations. Anyway, crashed. And then the other thing that was a big drama that year was obviously starting out on the back foot with the crash and the collarbone and all the rest of it. Got over that, but probably the bigger hurdle was I was in a team now where they had mechanics, suspension service, team manager. I was Joshy do it all himself up until that point. So I had a real culture shock when I had to listen to people and start I was like, oh, let's put 2 turns of preload on the forks or whatever, and they're like, no, you sit over there and clean your helmet visor and we'll do the suspension on the bike.
Did you find it difficult sort of letting them have the reins?
100, this is my point. I couldn't do it. I couldn't break free. I was so used to having control that when I got into a team environment, it was just, I was butting heads with everybody because I was wanting to still pull the tire warmers off. And
you could have made a crew chief very, very successful there. You could have hired me in to sit there and go, tell me what to do. Yeah. 2 turns of preload right now.
Well, I wasn't always right, but the problem was it was breaking that pattern of getting used to being able to let somebody else take control. And I really struggled with that. So obviously the mechanics, it's not their job to argue with the rider. So I ended up getting in this proper Barney with the team manager. And we got to a point where we were shouting down the phone, F you, you see, and this and all this sort of stuff. It was proper, got mental. And it was middle of the season, so it was winter. So I just went to the snow, because in Australia during the winter, you go up in the mountains, there is snow, snow lifts, proper snow season. So I just got away from it all. And it was just after we had this big big breakdown with yelling at each other. And I come back with a new outlook. And I think he'd had a bit of a think about things too. And we become best mates. And at the end of the year, I was set the lap record at Phillip Island, set the lap record at Eastern Creek on both categories, won loads of races, but it was all too little too late. So in the following year, it was a brand new CBR 1000R, and because it was before that we were racing on, because we had production superbike rules, so there was no 750 like FIM spec bikes like what Hodgson and Walker would have ridden. It was all like production superbikes, like a CBR 954, and then it went to the CBR 1000 RR when it first got released. That was 2004.
Is that when the underseat
exhaust?
Yeah, I remember
exhaust
that was
bikes,
such a like an iconic time in bike racing.
The best, I tell you what, I never forget the MCN advert. Like, this bike's killed more people than any other bike already. I remember reading that going, that's obviously an awesome bike. You know what I mean? Like, well, who doesn't want one of them?
It was an awesome bike. I loved it. But I'd gone from 929, the predecessor, to the 954. So like 929, 954, CBR 1000 RR. So that was like a revolutionary bike at the time. So opening couple of rounds, I won. I was leading Supersport, leading Superbike Championship. And then I said to the team, or during the contract period, I said, I'd like to do a wild card at Phillip Island when World Supersport's on. And they said, oh yeah, fair enough, we'll do that. So they just bought an engine out of Japan. I don't know the details, but they got an engine out of Japan from Honda or whatever was available, like a kit engine.
I was about to say stock or kit, yes. So
no, kit, like a kit engine from HRC, whatever was available at the time for Supersport racing. So it's got engine, ECU and radiator, and just put that in my Australian Supersport bike. So I did the opening rounds of Australian Superbike Championship 2004, leading both series, both championships. Did a wild card at Phillip Island World Supersport, won that. And it wasn't wet or weird conditions or whatever.
Bone dry,
proper, fair play, raced, won. And I was like, that was probably the best day of my life. Still.
Can we get that on YouTube?
Yeah.
That'll be on YouTube.
Yeah, 100% it's on YouTube.
We are getting that on.
It was actually, like, a link to it was actually tweeted by World Superbikes only a couple of weeks ago. So
during COVID, they've been doing all the throwbacks.
All the throwbacks. So that was one of the throwbacks. There's a link.
I'll have to watch that.
So yeah, that was like probably to date my best day of my life.
Did you feel like that was a big, from being like a national racer? Did you feel like that was a massive, step forward? So we're just in the paddock here, and it sounds like there's like a massive fight outside.
I think there's a bunch of Greeks having a party.
Was that a massive sort of step forward in your career?
No. Because of what happened next.
Nice lead up there, Chrissy. Nice done there.
No, it should have been. The other thing was, I don't know if it's just being young mindset and belief in yourself. People are like, oh, what a result. And I'm like, well, that's what I thought I was going to be able to do. You know what I mean? You don't go as a kid, grow up and go, oh, one day if I ever get an opportunity, I probably won't do any good, but I'll have a go. You go thinking, well, if I ever get the opportunity, I'm going to nail it. Right. And I was like, and I never said to anyone, oh, what are your expectations? Oh, I think I'm going to win. But inside, I thought I was going to win. Mm-hmm. But I never said it, obviously, because then you'd look knobhead if you didn't win. But so I was like, I think I can win. But then said, oh, I'd hope for a top 10 and just like played it down and then won.
Have you always had that attitude? From the flat track and the crappy...
I don't know.
Because that confidence is quite literally come from a hand-me-down. That's the blunt side.
It has to be.
Your brother, your sister got a horse. You killed the horse, sold it at Tesco, sold it for hamburgers, did whatever you wanted. Then your brother, you got a hand-me-down.
Yeah.
Illegally rode a bike for 2 years, and then it just this
unshakable
confidence, which is brilliant.
I don't know where the.
Can I just grab that drink there?
I was about to say, right, me and Chrissy, right, a drip, like, sweating. We're sweating. We've got a couple of
can you turn the heat up a bit?
I was about to say,
two
Australians here actually getting a nip on. Now I'm telling you.
She's not Australian.
Really?
She's English, yeah. She just sounds Australian because she hangs out with me so much.
Oh, there we are. Sorry, you live in Australia. Do you live in Australia, you two?
Only in the off-season.
Yeah. I
was literally just about to say, I've never spoke to either of you before, and I always thought Amy was English. And then when I've just heard accent before, I thought, oh, she's Australian. Like, she must be Australian.
To be fair, same here.
I just bully her into speaking like Australian now.
Just on that subject.
She just caught on
that subject.
To a good thing.
How did you and the missus meet?
Yeah, because you're punching, lad, and I love it.
Well, she tracked me down. That's another podcast.
She tracked me down.
No, go on. We've got time.
Come here. It's a YouTube thing. Get yourself sat in. Come on, budge over.
There's two very different stories. I'll do my own podcast.
Oh no, you get in. We want a couple. This is couples therapy right now for a quick moment. There we go.
Come on, so
talk us through.
Where else did you first meet?
Silverstone.
Yeah, Silverstone. I was racing for Relentless Suzuki. And
best graphics on a bike.
Yeah,
ever.
they were good,
best
weren't
looking
they?
Bikes ever.
Up close, it was even better. In a moving shot, just looks like a black bike. But if you ever saw them like right up close, there's really so much detail. It was really cool. So I'm at Silverstone, and should I tell the story?
No, I'm trying
Do you
to think
want the truth or do you want
truth. Just go for the truth. Here we go. I don't know now.
Well, long story short, because Josh does like to
Got
go on
lean
a little
in the
bit.
mic, dear. Lean in the mic. There we go.
So
Josh is
I'd
getting
never been
sweat
to a
on now.
BSB. Long story, boring as Josh would say. Turned up at Silverstone and I was helping someone with a job. And
She was doing promo, handing out flyers, and their job was to mingle with the people and hand out flyers, do a good job. But the girl she was with, what would you say she was like?
she wasn't my cup of tea. Okay. And I was a bit scared. So
She was more motivated by the look of the inside of people's motorhomes than handing out the flyers.
Fair play. Fair play. That was the most polite way. That is fantastic. Let's continue.
Anyway,
let's keep going.
Let's cut to the chase.
So
I was wandering around a bit lost, thinking, when's it my time to go home? And next thing I know, there's this Irish man approaching me, and he's like, "Oh, would you come and
Hold an
help us
umbrella
out?
at one.
Hold an umbrella." And I'm like, why the hell do you hold an umbrella? It's like raining, it's a sunny day. Like, honestly, so naive, so oblivious to the whole racing thing. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, come to garage, whatever, at 1 o'clock. So next thing I'm in this garage, handed a Relentless shirt and umbrella and told, come with me. Well, next thing I'm on
Meanwhile, I'd already done the out lap. I was on the sight lap. I didn't
Yeah.
know. So the guys in the team had said...
We've got your present.
No, they said... No, they said...
You're going to be really happy.
Yeah, they said, oh, have you got anyone organised to do the umbrella thing? Because often we'd just get friends or, someone's sister or, a sponsor's friend or whatever would go. They said, oh, have you got anyone? I said, no, I haven't. I'm more interested in racing. So they said, oh, we've got someone. Don't worry, we've got it covered.
So next thing, I'm walking out on the British Superbike grid thinking, what the hell is going on? I think you qualified on pole, didn't you?
Yeah, of course it is.
So,
Of course I did.
I'm on pole position, stood there with my brolly. Next thing, he pulls up.
Jesus, sorry, we have to interrupt you. I think someone's coming in from Mallorca or something. It's proper loud, this. You haven't got the headphones on. These mics pick up everything.
Sorry.
There you go. Sorry.
Hand up, because it's weird.
Oh, no, we're good. Wait a minute. The piss heads are going to Magaluf and they have... Gone. Grand. You're on pole position.
On pole position with my umbrella. He pulls up, helmet off, barks a load of orders. Don't touch this. Don't do that.
No.
Oh, how weird.
So, honestly, when...
Treat him mean, keep...
No, it wasn't like that. Like... When you pull up, I don't think it matters how many races you've been in Superbike. It's always nervous on the grid at the start of a Superbike race.
Of course it is.
I've never not had a nervous race.
I made that sound like I knew. Sorry, no, I've never been there. So yeah, sorry, I do apologise. Carry on.
So she could have been wearing a bikini. I wouldn't have noticed. Honestly, I was that nervous. I was just thinking about, like, what tyres have I got in? What gear am I supposed to be in for the start? Are the lights going from red to green, or are they just going from red to out? I mean, like, every stupid thought goes through your head. I was just nervous.
Yes.
So I pulled up to the grid and I thought, oh, who's this person they've got for me today? And I'm really particular about helmets. Like, I'm sure everybody is, but I'm like OCD. I don't like if there's like a finger mark in a visible spot.
Really?
I keep looking at it, going, oh, there's a finger mark up there. It's like it's turn one. I really should look at where I'm braking, but I can see a finger mark. It's like I'm really
How on earth are you a TT rider?
Oh, I know.
This is phenomenal. Carry on.
So
sorry.
I'm really sensitive about the helmet. It's like the one thing. You take my gloves, throw them underneath a bus, or I don't care about the helmet. Just take care of it. So I said to her, look, here, hold on to this, but don't put your hands on the visor. So I just really didn't want her to go, because when people they don't know, they just pick up a helmet any old way and they put their fingers all over it and they've been eating chips or something.
Now, to be fair, you're assuming you've done this 1,000,000 times.
No, I knew she hadn't, so that's why I thought.
Right.
I knew she hadn't, so I said, if I just hand it to her, she'll just put her hands on it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
She's probably still got gravy from the gravy chip, So I thought, on her fingers, so I thought, I've got to be... She wouldn't have had that, obviously, but... I was just thinking I don't want to dump...
Palmer on your fingers.
Yeah. I just didn't want to upset the helmet, but she thought, what a prick.
Yeah, he pulled up, but the orders, I thought, what a miserable bastard. And that was it. So...
And then I went...
hold on. Are you two married now, or are you engaged?
We're engaged.
This could go horribly wrong, Chrissy.
Congratulations.
COVID ruined the wedding.
Yeah, we were supposed to be
Wasn't
married
April.
on the 24th of April, but we had to cancel it because of COVID.
COVID, rubbish.
And
So
that weekend, obviously, after the race,
Well, he won
Well,
that
yeah.
race.
standard.
Obviously.
And I couldn't leave
It's actually a good race. If you go back to 2011, watch. I think I dropped back to about 12. I think that was the race. I dropped back to about 12th place. Everyone in the team, I think, had packed up and thought, that's it, our weekend's done. I come back to win it. It's a brilliant race. But anyway, go on.
Sorry, is this another YouTube? Because everyone will be watching the start line. There we go. Did she put her hands on the visor then? Let's everyone be like, she'll be like, you're behind your back. Get on there.
Well, anyway, long story short, I did the second umbrella and then left. Got off the grid, left, didn't stay for the race, nothing.
We did talk, but she got in a little bit earlier before race 2, so we had a little bit of a chat, and I was like, "Oh, she's a bit of all right," and
worked a bit of your magic.
Yeah.
It's a bit of me.
No, secretly, like in my thoughts, I was like, "Oh, she's actually quite pretty," and then
trying to play. Cool.
But then I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty cool. I'm not even liking it. Yeah, I'm not interested."
I'm on Paul and Superbike's bed. Look at me. Just look at me.
So I did notice her. I was like very aware, like she was there. But
and then was it a case of dropping in the DMs after the weekend?
Well, I left, and he didn't even know my name. Knew nothing about me. Obviously, I don't work at BSB. Hadn't been there before, so nobody kind of knew who I was, what my name was, where I came from.
The woman that nearly got away, Chrissy.
So then Monday morning, I was back at work, and
what work was?
I did PR and marketing for,
for a
skincare brand, so nothing to do with racing or motorbikes.
Right. There we go.
And something came up on my Twitter, and I actually responded to the Relentless team and said, "Oh, thanks for looking after me," because before that I was having a pretty rough day. And they wrote something back to me, and then he saw, that's that girl from the weekend.
Yeah, because Paul Lindsay, who was doing the PR work for Relentless at the time, he had posted from his account, and obviously on Twitter, because I'm a friend, I see what he quotes.
Yes.
And it said, thanks so much, Amy B, for your help this weekend. But bang, there she is. and then
he slid into the DMs.
And then I slid into the DMs, and then she stalked me. Because she knows, like, she was liking photos from about 5 years ago.
Mate, you did just win the race. So
no, she didn't. I was liking photos from her 5 years ago.
There we go.
This is why I say there's two different stories. There's the truth and Josh's version.
Yeah.
Because he tells people I slid into his DMs and all sorts.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I tell the exact opposite of what really happened to people all the time.
And then obviously, congratulations for the engagement.
Yeah, but she had a boyfriend.
Oh yeah, I had a boyfriend.
Yeah, I nicknamed him the Roadblock.
Curveball.
True story.
Yeah, because we then had to go from Silverstone to Brands Hatch, and that was the last round of the year. So I said to her in the DMs, I said, would you come to Brands Hatch? And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll come. So I was at Brands, I'm thinking, it was kind of a bit awkward, when you've got to know someone but you don't, and you're kind of like, what do I say? Where does the conversation go? And so I was like, I need to know, like, straight up, you want to know she's got a boyfriend. So she's at the track, and I says, what does your boyfriend think about you coming to motorbike races? Thinking, she'll go, I don't have a boyfriend.
I had come with my dad and my brother. It wasn't like I just, gone to meet some
I
random
wasn't
boy
interested
behind
in
my
that.
boyfriend's back. It wasn't
I was trying to get to the
anything
punchline.
sinister.
And I says, how's your boyfriend feel about you coming to be at a motorbike race when it's predominantly men around? And she goes, no, he's pretty cool about it. We've been going out for a lot of years, and we've been together forever. So I was like, so then, yeah. So I was like,
there goes that dream.
And so I was like, that's cool. And so then that was the last round. I after the weekend, I went home to Australia. She stayed here. We kept sort of DMing once every now and then, but I was kind of lost interest because there's the boyfriend. And then the whole off season had gone. I come back to Brands Hatch, open a round, DM'd her again. I said, do you want to come and do the umbrella at the opening round? She said, yeah. And then I says, how's things with your boyfriend? Because it's been a few months. And she's like, it's not actually that good. And I was like, yeah, we're making progress. We're making progress.
To be fair, you're in Australia. You're getting a tan. You know what I mean? Drinking beer can. You could have this.
Yeah. I was posting loads of quality photos on Twitter to try and...
He's really selling it.
And so as the year went on, her relationship, descended. Yeah, and I nicknamed him the Roadblock. So to try and, not to say that I want something to happen, but calling him the Roadblock kind of insinuates, doesn't it? So I'd how's Roadblock? And it's actually not that good. And he's actually not that pleased when we go into motorbike races. And I'm like, well, why are you here? And she goes, because I just really like coming. I enjoy myself so much more here than if I was at home doing nothing. And I was like, that's a good sign. So. And then
chipping away.
You've done some groundwork, the pair of you.
Yeah, there was a good solid year probably of groundwork.
Essentially,
it was actually a full
year.
It was a full year before we were official.
Excellent.
Nice.
And then
the rest is history. Well, actually, no. Then we were official in say September. I quit my job and went to Australia with him at the end of the season.
And hence the new
So it
accent.
all went quite
Hence the new accent.
All went quite rapid.
Yeah,
after
it went
that.
quick.
Where were you from? This is how this
Near
question
Cambridge.
stemmed.
So like
Cambridge.
Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire borders.
There we go then.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
obviously they engaged.
Why didn't you say Bedford? You're not proud of Bedford?
Oh, near Bedford, Stevenage, Hitchin,
It's a joke.
Cambridge.
It's a
No,
joke. It's
no,
an in-joke.
It's a
an
small
in-joke.
little village that no one's heard of, so I try and name
That's
some of the
Snetterton way,
bigger
isn't it?
areas.
Stevenage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight out over.
And obviously, you said you're engaged. Congratulations. Was it did you go down one knee traditional or?
Yeah. I rang.
It was mid
And
corner.
he rang my dad.
For years, I was like, I'm not
nice.
interested in getting married. No interest. Not doing it. Not happen. I even said to her, look, if you want Prince Charming, it's gonna do like the marriage and just do all the things, the beautiful like
Fairy tale.
fairy tale.
I'm not your guy.
Yeah, like flowers, romance. I says I'm not him. I says like let's get it like really
That's
early on.
every motorcycle racer. No. That's not the
Well,
condescending.
now that
is-
I know
it is-
more women and people in the paddock, I realise they're actually all quite similar, but
It is,
I didn't know that.
it's like quality, but we're just devoted people, aren't we? And
Yeah.
To your bike.
Well, no, but
You have to realise you're always going to be second to the bike.
Oh, deep. Oh God, now
No, but you
now
need-
that,
you
now
need
that
to-
we've jumped down this rabbit hole, Alice, let's move on.
You need to
Yeah.
you need to start out how you mean to go on. There's no use like trying to fake a relationship
Yeah, of
and then
course.
years later you go, I can't keep this up. I'm actually a prick. You know, it's like you might as well just be a prick at the start and then you know what you're dealing with.
Fair play.
So I was like, nah, not happening. And then what happened once, I read, it was something on the internet, I think, and it said, Shaky Burns' wife, Petra,
Michael
Laverty's wife,
Jodie.
Jodie. I think it was at the time Ellison was still married. So it was James Ellison's wife,
I think
Sarah.
even Tommy's wife, Stacey. It was like,
And
at
it was
least
all this,
these wives.
and Josh's girlfriend, and I think they even got her name wrong. And I was like, right, this, and so then I went and rang her dad and said, would you mind if I married Amy? And then
Did you say what your reasons behind this, Josh? You know, did you actually go into detail? Why do you like my daughter? Basically, I flicked through the program, and
no, but I didn't like how it looked. It didn't
no,
look
I know
right.
what
It didn't
you
feel
mean,
right because
yeah.
she's like, to me, like I even said this to her. The reason we don't need to get married, my word is stronger than
Of course,
a contract. You know, a ring or a fancy present or whatever. Me saying I want to be with you is more valuable than any other thing. So
Yeah.
if that's not enough for you, then go somewhere
When's
else.
materialistic, isn't it?
But then
marriage counselling. This is
It
brilliant.
really is.
So yeah, I just didn't like what it stood for. Like
Yeah.
like
Like in
she was
society.
as much my wife as a lot of married people. So
Yeah, of
I was
course.
like, oh well, let's just do
Let's
it.
just do it.
So yeah, engaged. When we're in Australia, I went to this like nice lookout, which is not far from my home, and it's kind of beautiful looking. And
It was quite romantic. For
yeah,
a
it was for
non-romantic.
a non-romantic. It was quite romantic. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And
Yeah.
So
were you due to get married this year
Yeah,
during
April.
coronavirus?
yeah,
And then
not during coronavirus. We planned to get married.
They planned a pandemic. Let's spice things up a
Some
bit.
could
there.
argue that Josh maybe didn't want to get married and the pandemic is all down to him.
There you go.
I've got-
He wants to go through with it.
I've got some powers, but I'm not that strong.
There we go. Absolutely
No,
brilliant.
also,
Anyway.
I don't think you've spotted it yet, but I was down in Riders Living Area earlier, and I've got to say, not only have you've got the missus, but you've also got the truck to go with it. Down there, a lot of the riders
you
have got these
were
big sort of they're like RV sort of big wagons that they stay in, where the new sort of trend seems to be these big trailers, and a lot of the lads get them like brought with proper trucks, you know,
like showmen, travellers would
yeah,
use.
yeah. But and I've
Hey,
seen that.
hey, racing is the big circus, isn't it?
Isn't
So
it?
there we go.
What's the wheels you've got? Big 4x4 thing.
Well, they're actually smaller than what that should have. The tyres are, because I imported it, so everyone knows, I got a fifth wheel trailer, so it's a caravan essentially, but massive. It's a fifth wheel, so that means it pivots off the bed of the pickup.
Right.
And the pickup that's suitable to pull something like that is only in America. So,
A Dodge or something like that.
well, it's the same, yeah, like a Dodge. It's a Ford F250. So,
Oh, right.
And they're not in the UK.
So we
America.
bought them in America and brought them into the UK and imported them at the start of we started the project at the start of last year, but wasn't really up and running until midway. And basically, you can get more value for money. Like if you buy a coach, all the money's in the engine and the drivetrain and the diffs and the gearboxes and all that stuff's like proper big heavy duty stuff. And then you've got all the interior fancy, nice.
Different MOTs and everything, aren't
Yeah,
there?
yeah,
It's a huge
insurance,
logistics,
tax,
yeah.
everything's massive. It's all money. Where if you buy a caravan,
Yeah.
there's no expensive equipment apart from the thing pulling it. But the thing pulling it, I've got to have a car anyway. You know, you make money to buy nice things. So if I buy a car, or I'm happy to drive a big pickup, that's a car that I would like to have anyway. Yeah. So it does a dual purpose. When I'm driving during the week, I drive this cool big pickup, and then of a weekend, I just hook the caravan on and drive to the racetrack with the caravan. So I've got kind of the quality of a coach, but not the expense.
There we are. And if you've got other jobs to do, as far as you're riding, opening shops and everything around.
You can get away from the track.
Get away from everything. Oh, there we go.
Cool one.
And here you are in a tiny little Ivor Williams bog trailer. There you are, grand. Well, thank you for coming on and giving us the truth. There we go.
Now, I was really I'm just wondering that. Yeah, that'll be fine. I was just wondering around the time that you came to the UK. What was the time where you went from Australia to British? Obviously, I remember when you first came to British Superbike, and it was kind of like a revelation. What year was that?
It was 2009, but basically the story, I kind of can't go into that without telling you the finish of what happened after 2004. So I'd won the World Supersport race, top of the world, everything's fantastic. 10K Honda, which were the best Supersport team at the time, contacted through the Honda network, Honda Australia, and said, we want to poach your rider and run him for the rest of the season in World Supersport. And Honda Australia went, no, he's contracted to ride and do our job. Because obviously I had a duty to promote Honda motorcycles, because that's who I rode for.
Yeah.
And I was contracted to do that, like any contract. So they're not going to go, oh, yeah, cool, just trot on. And, yeah, we've done all this hard groundwork to get you to where you are now. And now you've got good, you're just going to ditch us. So they says, no, he's got a job to do here. So they didn't let me go. And the following round of Australian Superbikes, I got T-boned. It was a wet race, and a guy outbroke himself. It was really wet. Outbroke himself, kind of maybe aquaplaned a bit. I don't know what happened, but anyway, went to the infield and across the grass, and was just like on the bike sailing across the grass. And he met the track again at the apex where I was, and it was just like an explosion. So I separated my pelvis, and there's loads of complications that go with that. But anyway. I was stayed in hospital in Western Australia for a month or a couple of weeks, and I was in Western Australia for another couple of weeks. So I ended up being over there for a month, then come home. I was in a wheelchair for a while because I couldn't weight bear.
Jesus.
Yeah, had World Supersport teams ringing me going, can you come over and replace Ryder, who's a knobhead? And I was like, X or Y, whoever he was, and I was like, I'm in a wheelchair. I was nearly in tears, you know what I mean? I'm like, I've gone from the top of the world to the bottom in a matter of a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. So, so I watched the lead in the Australian Supersport and Superbike disappear whilst I sat in a wheelchair, and then, went through recovery. End of the year, there was like a one-off race, like a club level, a bit better than a club level race, and I come back in November against doctor's request, but I come back anyway, like we all do, come back early. And I think I got a couple of thirds, so it was just good to get back into the racing before we went into the off-season again. So then... that was then the start of 2005. So I raced Supersport and Superbike and won both championships in 2005. So I kind of recovered from the injury, won both championships. 2006 went to World Supersport. So I signed with a Ducati team in World Supersport. It was called SC Caracci Ducati. Stefano Caracci. He's a guy that's been in this paddock a few times, friendly with Tom Bridewell.
Yeah, it used to be. I worked with him for like one round and stuff.
Stefano. So he had a race team. It was called NCR Ducati, something World Superbike, and Frankie Keeley rode for him for the year. I think it was 05. So then he went back to Supersport in 06, and I rode for him, and I did 3 rounds. And obviously he could remember the Phillip Island race where I won. Yeah. So he was thinking, we've got a Ducati Supersport bike with Pirelli tyres made in Italy, STM clutch in Italy, Italian mechanics, just everything was just like this perfect golden goose egg, all he needed was a rider hop on and win. And I hopped on, and it really wasn't a bike to win. They thought it was just perfect. It just needed Valentino to hop on it, and it would go.
Just disappear. No.
And it didn't work like that. So I got opening round was like, I think 12th. Then Phillip Island I was 8th, and then Valencia I was 10th, and then I got the sack because I didn't win, obviously. So they thought this guy's going to win. there's loads of massive long story with all that. But anyway, I got the sack, so I sat out around, went to Monza and watched at Monza because I didn't have the ride. Stuart Easton filled in for me. But obviously Monza, at that time, the Supersport Ducati's best chances was Monza. And I got the sack and Stuart got the ride for Monza. I was like,
I bet you're watching.
I think he got 6th, so he did good. He did good, but we know Stuart's good. So I didn't like Stuart. Oh, just to finish up.
I didn't like Stuart.
Yeah, at that time, because he took my ride, but he turns out to be a really good person.
Yeah.
But I also become best friends with Kirk McCarthy in that year when I said he took my ride. You know, I started. Well, as soon as I'd got past that round, I'd realised that he's a legend, and we become best friends, like proper. It was weird being racing each other, like cutthroat. We were best mates. It was such a strange situation. It was awesome, so good. And unfortunately, he died in 2004. I was in the wheelchair at the side of the track with after my accident, watching, and I watched the crash, and he was killed in a similar way that I got took out. To be fair, but not to go into details. But yeah, it was such a shame. I got to meet this guy, and he was such a legend, and had such an impact on my racing, and even who I am as a person. He was just such a legend, and yeah, he got killed. So yeah, sorry. I'd missed that from the previous story, so I needed to add that in. So yeah, 2000. So I went to Monza, watched, and I got to meet a guy called Stefano Bertocchi. He ran Bertocchi Kawasaki. It was the longest running team in World Superbikes at the time, because obviously World Superbikes started in I think 87 or something. Don't quote me. And so he was there from the first round. He'd run a team all the way through. Never missed a round, never missed a year, whatever. So he was the longest running Superbike team. But he had burnt every bridge that there was to burn in Superbike paddock. He owed everybody in the paddock money, from the tyre suppliers, the fairing suppliers, the fasteners, the brake calipers, the discs, everything you could bolt on a bike. He had a debt with everybody. And he had this ex-Grand Prix 250 rider riding the bike, and he was coming last, and he was 2 seconds behind second last. So they had enough at this point. They were like, this guy's got to go. We'll take anybody. And I was like, pick me. So I had a meet with him, rode for him, finished the year with him, and I don't even know if I got a point. I was like, I mean, you had guys like Kageyama, Haga, Corsa, Bayless, Biaggi. I mean, there was mental amounts of people fast in World Superbike.
What was the bike up to scratch though? Be honest.
No.
There we are then.
I said, for an example, we had a good frame and a bent frame, and I crashed, and the bent frame became the good frame, and the crash frame became the bent frame. And then we had a dashboard. It's funny. I worked with, Giovanni, was Scott's crew chief. He was my crew chief in that year. We were both at the bottom. We were like bottom feeders at that same time. We were both trying to make our way, and I could see clearly he was quite good, and I felt like I was quite good, but we were in a maze of shit, so we would never have succeeded. But he was actually the funniest thing he did was, after I crashed once, I destroyed the Motec dash. So he cut the cardboard picture of the dash off the box that it comes in and stuck the cardboard on the dashboard position. So when the cameras went past the last riders on the grid, it didn't look like I had no dash. So if you zoomed in or something, it would show like 10,000 RPM, and I was stood still with the engine off. But because
I know what I'm doing when I get home. I'm printing off Motec stickers.
So we got to the end of that year, and I was like, I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing, but I wasn't staying there. It just felt like there was no future in it. So then he says, look, I know you don't want to ride for us. You made that very clear. And he did. He agreed. He said, look, you've got a bigger future than I can offer you. He goes, we've done our best times were years ago. So he was like, but before you go, just meet a potential sponsor. I want to give this sponsor, a good feeling that, we could make a relationship, and he'd love to talk to you. It could make the difference for me carrying on in Superbikes and not. So would you do me a favour? I said, yeah, cool. So I met the sponsor, and he was this, Italian guy, had a bit of swagger about him, big fella. He owned a football team, and not massive football, but he owned a club level football team.
Enough to own a football club.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. And just the way he got on and presented himself, you thought he had like money. And he was like, oh, what would it take for you to stay? I know you want to go somewhere else, you're not happy here, what would you want to do to stay? I said, and because I'd ridden so many good years on Honda, I kind of had this like love like this cheeky
Loyally,
little,
yes.
like sort of something made me feel fuzzy inside if I was on the Honda, you know. So I was like, well, I said, if I was on a Honda, if I had, you know, Showa suspension, if I had 3 mechanics from Australia, so that I could talk, because obviously working in an Italian team, I couldn't communicate with anyone.
Yeah.
And if I had 3 mechanics from Australia just to give me that bit of home feeling, I says, yeah, I'd probably stay, and like maybe a salary, like let's say 100,000 euros, that would be all right. And he says, yeah, I reckon that's not too much to ask. And I was like, you serious? He goes, yeah, that's all reasonable stuff. You're not asked for anything out of the ordinary, have you?
I can't even see it. Wow.
So I was like, cool, let's do it. So they bought Hondas.
What age were you at this point, sorry?
24.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I think 24 or 25, something around that. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I was like, things are starting to show potential. So I pulled up to went home to Australia, had my off season, everything was cool. Come back, got to the bikes, Hondas as they were. My mechanics from Australia, who I'd organised to get the rolls and their positions, were there. Everything's good. Oldham suspension in the bike. I was like, I thought we agreed Showa. He goes, they were too expensive. We're just going with Oldhams. They're cheaper. I was like, oh no, if this is how we're starting out, I don't like the way this is going. Anyway, I got like 6 rounds into the championship, and what had happened was Batocchi, who was the longest running team in the paddock, was obviously out of money, used this guy's money to stay in the championship. And this guy with the money used Batocchi to get the grid slot. Because you couldn't just go, I want to race in World Superbike. You had to buy a grid slot. And
Right.
Batocchi wouldn't give up the grid slot without being part of the team.
Yes.
So they said, yeah, no worries, we'll fund everything, you stay on as team manager. Well, once we got 1 round in and everything, they knew how all the game was being played, they just palmed him off and got rid of him. So he just got sold a lie, and he was so bitter and twisted about it, as you would be.
Of course he would be, yeah.
After Silverstone round, he where the truck's leaving Silverstone, the lorry's pulled into a services to get some fuel or a burger or whatever. He jumped in the cab, started up, because he'd had the trucks for so many years, he had extra keys. He just followed, tailgated the truck until it stopped, jumped in, stole the truck, took it to Italy, parked it in a warehouse, and just parked it up. So on paper, he didn't get like prosecuted or whatever, because the guy who owned bought the trucks hadn't transferred the registration, so it was still legally in his name. So the guy had paid him the money, which was rightfully right of sale.
Yes,
but because he hadn't changed the name, he was legally allowed to drive it. So he just took the truck and parked it just to get back at him. So I was like, so we sat out around, and I was like,
you
what
were
the
kind
hell?
of stuck in the middle of this.
I was stuck in the middle of this. So then we're stuck there. So then I was like, right, well, where are we going? They're like, well, we don't know. We've got no bikes. We've got no equipment, no tools. We've got nothing. We've got nothing. All we've got is empty warehouse where the bikes used to be worked on. And I says, well, under the contract, you said you'd supply bikes and all this sort of stuff. So legally, I'm allowed to leave. Is that not right? And they says, yeah, to be fair, yeah, you are, because we can't honour our contract. So you're free to go. So I went and rode for Johan Stiggerfeldt in Stiggy Honda in World Supersport. And I went from having no ride again, but also my 3 mechanics that had come from Australia, they also had no job. So they came. We were in there. There's one of those little European. I had a little European camper that I was renting. 4 guys were in this little European camper, which was fun for about 3 hours. After that, we were on each other's tits. So we're driving around. Anyway, somehow or another, ended up riding for Stiggy, and went to Vallelunga in Rome for an official World Supersport test. Fastest, faster than Sefuglu, faster than everybody. Topped the timesheets, fastest. And I was like, this is mint. And then went on to, I think I got maybe a couple of podiums or something. So that was finished out 07. 08, re-signed for Stiggy. That's when it had, you probably would have seen photos, it had all weird animals all over the side of the bike. It was a hands-free. So there was,
You know what my favourite thing about this interview? People will be listening to this and their Google will be going mental. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm loving this.
So it was Stiggy Honda, 2008. And I finished 3rd in the World Supersport Championship. I won Donington. And this is where I don't know if I should say it, but I normally say everything I shouldn't. I think everything's politically...
Oh, God, here we go.
Politically, are you talking about
racing in general? Everything's
as in you get special advantages and special.
Conspiracy. Let's say, right? That's the word.
Paddock conspiracy.
Because we came to Donington Park practice 1 wet, practice 2 wet, qualifying wet, morning warm-up wet, race 1, ride to the grid, perfectly dry. Donington World Supersport 2008, I won it. Johnny Ray was in it, Eugene Laverty was in it, Andrew Pitt was in it. They're all the big names that were in racing were in it, and I've rode past them all.
What's your theory on that?
Well, they didn't know how the bike was performing to be able to manipulate the result. Because
who didn't know? Sorry, I'm a bit lost here.
Well, whoever's in the powers that be, the people at the top, whether it's the championship organisers, whether it's Pirelli, whether it's Ohlins, I don't know who. They didn't know what the order of practice was going to be to be able to know whose bike to balls up. So my bike, for once, felt like it should. And the other thing that got me is that every time I qualified good, I'd come in on a Sunday morning and the forks would be out on my bike. I'd be like, "What are you doing?" And they're going, the service guy come up and he says, it's going to be a really hot day today. They're expecting 30 plus degrees and, we need to put fresh oil in so it's got the best chance of a good result today. And I'm like, just leave it. Don't touch it.
Considering you've come from a serious history of your own self-knowledge about suspension, I would have been braying them off to death with a fork leg.
Going back to the conspiracy thing, do you know, like, for
here we
example...
Go.
Love it, here we go.
Do you know when, like, Keenan Sofoglu went to Moto 2, so the first time he ever rode the Moto 2 bike, I think it was pole position, front row, and then, so he got signed up to Moto 2, and then when he was full-time in the championship...
He couldn't get anywhere near the front.
He was like...
I think Ben Spies should have been a much better finisher than he ever was
in MotoGP.
Yeah,
he was first year in World Superbikes.
Well, commercially, MotoGP doesn't earn any money off an American MotoGP champion. No one comes to the races. Everyone wants to watch NASCAR. No one gives a crap about MotoGP. So why would a European-controlled championship want an American rider to win? I don't know. There's a bit of food for thought.
Just on that, do you know Ant West?
Yeah, of course I know Ant West is.
And
I was born in the 80s. I know Ant West.
Yeah, he went through a thing with.
I think he's kind of took it to a new extreme, but yeah, he's got some.
He's talking about Valentino Rossi having forgotten.
I don't know. I don't want to go down that. I think Valentino's mega. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I do believe.
One of our questions. Marquez
he was talking about Marquez in Moto 2 as well when the.
It does seem a bit strange that... I'll just tell you a couple of things that seem strange. There's a factory Repsol bike in Moto 2, and when Marquez migrates to MotoGP, that team no longer exists. And then... Well, as a sponsor at least. I don't know MotoGP paddock that well, but... Anyway, and then there was a rule that a rookie could never go directly to a factory ride. Oh, no, we'll get rid of that rule. I mean, I don't know. It's just food for thought. I mean, I'm probably getting too far down a black hole here, but the reasons that I have these feelings is because I've been in the situation where I'm like, the bike was mint. We were super consistent in qualifying, in practice. We qualified on the front row. Why are my forks out before morning warm-up or after morning warm-up, between morning warm-up and the race? I'm like, just leave them as they were. The bike was fine. And they're going... Why are you so paranoid? They just want to help you. I'm like, I don't think they are wanting to help us. I think they're trying to stuff us over here. And then, so anyway, 2008, finished third in the World Championship. Andrew Pitt won, Johnny Ray got second, I got third. And at the final round, so the worst result I'd had in the whole season was a 7th. The only result I needed to get second in the World Championship was 9th. So the worst result was for the year was 7th, up to that point. The result I needed to get second was 9th, because Johnny had thought, stuff it, I can't win the Supersport Championship. I'm going to Superbike next year. I'm going to ride Portimao on the Superbike class to get a feeler for it before I'm progress.
Yes. Yeah.
So Johnny wasn't in it. So whilst Johnny wasn't there, all I needed to do was get 9th and I'd make second in the World Championship. But obviously there's a championship bonus for second. So my team was going to benefit nothing for me finishing second or third. So they would prefer I finish third, and I'd prefer I finish second, because I get a championship bonus for seconds better than championship bonus for third.
Of course it is.
So I'm super motivated. Johnny's not in it. I can't beat Andrew Pitt, but I can get second and get a cheeky little bonus. So that's my motivation. Going to do it. Everything was going sweet. Went in the race. Tyre shredded. Like, I'm in Parc Fermé. Everybody's tyre looks mint. Mine looks like there's been a woodpecker the whole way around it. It is shredded. And I finished 11th. So I got third in the World Championship. And
how much money you'll know at the exact figure. How much did you lose in your bonus?
I think it was 40 grand for second, and I think it was 15 for third.
big old wedge then.
Yeah, so it's a decent
No, but in that scenario, do you think it's possibly the team didn't want you to get if anyone was to blame, like the conspiracy thing,
if the conspiracy were, that wasn't against like a branded product. That was, I think, the team going, how can we dodge this bullet, let's get that tyre from the back of the workshop, the one that the transport tyre, the transport tyre, the one on the bent rim, that rim goes down slow, that's even better, get that one, put that on your bike, mark that as race 1.
So was that 2008?
That was 2008.
Okay, so perfect.
Another YouTube.
So I was like saying, well, where are we going next year? And they had this new big sponsor on. They had Leon Haslam signed up for Superbike. And then it was like, I forgot his name, Hopkins on Superbike. I'm like, well, where am I going to go? And they got Anthony West in Supersport. And I'm thinking, that must be me third. And they were like, yeah, well, you can have the second Supersport ride, but we want you to ride for like 25,000 euros. I'm like, I can't afford to ride for 25,000. I come third in the World Championship, for freak's sake. I said, if you just done me out of 40 grand, like the least you could do is pay me that, And they're like, no, well, you've got nowhere else to go. We've got you in a contract until November. In November, so you can't sign with anyone until after the contract release is over. So, and it wasn't like they tried to hide. They just said, basically, you've got nowhere else to go. You either sign for us or by November there'll be no rides. So, but they didn't know I was talking to Harvey at British Superbikes. So I was so fed up with all the politics and bullshit, I'd rather hit a wall at Alton Park and chance it than stay in this corrupt world that I was in. So I was like, stuff is, I'll go and ride for Harvey Beltran at HM Plant Honda. Who wouldn't want to ride one of them?
And BSB was born.
BSB was born.
So first year when you got there, who was that?
This is getting juicy now. 2009.
HM Plant. Was it?
Yes,
back then?
yes, HM Plant.
And who was your teammate when you first got here?
Glenn Richards.
Which
that was already a disaster. Publicly, Honda signed Glenn Richards, which the public had warmed to. Great guy, super nice. All right, fair enough, Glenn Richards, an Aussie. Not really who we want. We'd rather see a Brit on a bike like that, but all right. He's like an adopted Brit. Is Glenn, so they could cope with that.
Yes,
But then this side, where the hell did this guy come from? Another Aussie? We got a British Superbike Championship with a British run team up at Louth, and we got 2 Aussies. How does that work? So I just got slated. Remember there was that crash.net? That was at the time where everyone wrote a feed of messages below every heading in their
forum.
It was like a forum. It was. So they'd go Brookes signs for HM Plant, and there was 500 messages of why him when you could have picked a super stock rider, our local Brits, blah blah blah. I was just getting battered with public outrage. I was like, all right, whatever. I was a bit I'm all right. I'm not that bad, but I could see their point.
Australian. Yes.
I could see their point, so I was like, fair enough. They'll warm to me. So I tried to come in to Britain to race round 1, and I didn't have my visa. I applied for a visa and it got knocked back because HM Plant Honda Racing weren't registered with the Home Office to employ a worker from outside of the UK.
They're tax dodging heathens.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
No,
it was not tax.
It
was just to employ someone from overseas. You have to be registered with the Home Office, and you have to have.
Because we had Steve Plater on the podcast, and this is the other because
he rode replacement
exactly,
me,
yeah. So he sort of explained this story, but from the other side.
Oh, okay. So I tried to come. Because I'd lived in the UK. Oh man, this podcast going to go forever. I lived in the UK from 2007. So when all this chaos was going on with the trucks being stolen, I was living in the UK already. I was hanging out with Leon Camier and his buddy Stalker down at near Bournemouth, Wimborne, Dorset. So I was hanging out down there, driving back after every round. I had a little van and a caravan. And I had a motocross bike in the back of the van and a caravan for sleeping in. And I'd just drive back from every European round, get the ferry over to Dover and down to the south and just hang out down there until the next round and then piss off. And every time there was a BSB round, I went with Leon and Stalker to the race and hung out with them because it was just cool. Banter was good. And that's how I got to know the BSB on a more personal level. Mm-hmm. So when the idea of going to race there, I'd already been to Cadwell.
Hooked.
I was videotaping Cadwell jump to try and help Leon, and then he went and spanned himself and broke his leg. Yeah. And I was like, oh, never mind the videos, that was nothing to do with me.
That's on YouTube. That's one of the worst crashes to watch.
I've seen that.
He lands crossed up.
Yeah, he lands a bit wrong because he was thinking that he was losing because you had like Bomber Harris just smashing the jump and Johnny Ray was doing mad things like waving to the crowd, psycho. So everyone was jumping big, and I was like, and Leon was like, "Oh, I'm really struggling over there. I think I'm losing some time. I need to get over it quicker."
Right, talk me through it. I want to know how you do that.
Because I went down, I was just watching, so I was like, yeah, well, I've got a video camera and I'll video everyone that's going over it well and we'll analyse it. And so that's how I knew about the jump before I even got here.
Come on, talk me through it. I want to learn how you jump the mountain.
You are like the king of the mountain. Really.
You just got to baste it. Just.
I'm not a motocross. I'm a forester from the northeast, son. I don't even know how to ride a motocross, so come on. Tease me through this.
It's not something I can tell you how to do. It's like
you're gonna try. Go on.
No. Compare it to like doing a wheelie, right? So some kid comes up to you, a person, anyone comes up and they go, "Oh, you're a professional rider. Teach me how to do a wheelie." And you go, "Well, I can tell you what the mechanical steps are, but the only way you're going to ever know how to do a wheel stand is to do a wheel stand yourself and feel it." It's like explaining sex, like. It's not something.
Talk me through that one as well. Go on, we've got to get this plan out.
It's not something you can explain to someone. You have to feel it for yourself to be able to do it properly or to know what it feels like. And that's the same as jumping a bike. I can tell you what the processes are for jumping, but if you tried to do it, you'd end up in the fence because you don't. It's like a golf swing. Unless you know how it's supposed to feel, you got to do it over and over and over until you get that sensation.
But are you preloading it? So are you pushing into the mountain?
No,
it's literally just.
What's that? I mean, like 70 kilos. You got the bike that weighs 100 and something kilos and 150 mile an hour, and what you think you're going to go like that, and it's going to make a difference. You know what I mean? So
watching you over the mountain, obviously a lot of people get a bit crossed up, and it really kills the confidence because it is difficult.
So I'll tell you why that is, because with a motocross bike, it's never really fully connected with the ground. Like if you put it, that's why I love these high definition videos. If you see the slow-mos of motocross, and you watch the things that are going on, the bike's dancing all over the ground. It's never ever 100% fully connected with the ground. It's always moving. So you can land slightly sideways or very sideways on a bike, and if you've got skill and you keep the throttle on, it'll just slide back into its natural position because of the inertia of the wheels and all those gyroscopic effects and things will just keeps it going forwards. So as long as you go with it and don't and you know how to fight, don't fight it, you know how to move your body and use that energy, you can stay in control. But with a superbike, it's not 100% grip, but it's very close. So when you leave the ground, if the bike doesn't land back in its natural position it's supposed to be when it took off, the bike's going to want to fight to get back to that natural position. So this is what happens when people take off, they leave the ground, and any input you put through the bars or the footrests or whatever is going to affect which way the bike moves in the air. And then, so when it lands back to the track, it then rips really hard to get back to its position it wants to be in. And that's what scares me. It scares me too. But it's just through...
Have you ever cocked the mountain up?
Oh, 100%, yeah, I do it regularly. Really? I don't talk about it because, I don't want people to see that I've got faults. But, I cock it up.
Have you crashed?
No.
Touch wood. Just
no, it's not going to make any difference, is it?
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the last person to say
so
that. So
basically, what I do is I come through. I think it's very clear to see if you watch it on the videos, the YouTube stuff. You obviously compromise the left. You're really, really pulling it to the left to try and get yourself in the best position to open up the acceleration because you're going next into a right. And I come through. I often clip. Not wanting to, but often clip an engine case or a foot peg on the curb on the right, because the curb on the right's quite a raised one.
It's a hell of a height.
It's quite a high curb, so it's not really ideal for what we're trying to do. And when you're at full leaning or trying to accelerate, the bike kind of compresses at the base, and then you're trying to ride up the middle of the track, and this is where the feeling comes in. I don't know what to tell you I do.
Yes,
I just sort of like keep on the gas until the bike kind of just naturally floats off the ground, and then you're just with it, and you just sort of like stay and float. And I do things like if the bike starts to feel wrong, I do stuff, but I don't know where that comes from.
All correct in midair, really.
Yeah, it's like what it's like you do something. They're like, why did you do that for? And you're like, I don't know. It's just reaction.
On the back wheel as well.
That's better to land on the back wheel. Yeah.
I had to go on a motocross bike. I've only had to go a couple of times, and we went out. I got a loan of a 450 for the day, and it goes right down. Right, if the front goes right down on you, open up the throttle.
Yes.
And if it's proper vert, hit the
back brake.
So
but you've got to pull the clutch in, otherwise you stall the engine.
That's it. But you see, these are the things. Watch you lads, right? Another YouTuber you got to watch later on is you over the mountain. The sheer height, and it's just controlled. Like you say, you're just doing that through sheer natural ability. But it looks to me like off throttled, hitting brakes.
Oh, I probably am
doing magical things.
Nah,
to make that
I mean,
thing
normally under normal circumstances, it's pretty like natural feeling. It just sort of floats nice. If you get it all right, it's easier when the tyre's new. The thing that makes it the hardest is when your tyre starts to wear out. Like late in the race, I'm scared to kind of commit because it wants to spin on the takeoff. So if you go up a jump with it spinning, that's not really a good thing. But when the tyre's fresh and new at the start of the race, it just stuck to the track and just goes, just jumps like a weapon.
Does it give a faster lap?
I don't know, but it's cool, isn't it?
It is cool as there's no denying that. It's that's what people come for entertainment. That's what it's about. But no, is it? You know how Ross? This is ages ago.
You're really breaking into some like proper hardcore content coming up.
I know. I do apologize.
Have you ever? Speaking of YouTube, have you ever watched the Mallory crash?
That's where
that's still coming up. Like if you want to stop interrupting, we could get there.
Let's get there.
No,
no. I am 100% behind.
There was some sarcasm in there. I wasn't proper having a dig at you.
No. I'm just going to cry a little tonight. Don't worry. No, carry on. Crack on.
Do you know the first year Josh came to BSB? Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there. So I tried to come into the UK because I'd been coming into the UK all the time for a couple of years. So 07, 08 was all coming in and out of the UK. But it wasn't a problem because I wasn't working. I was just a holidayer, potentially. Actually, I was better than a holiday. I was earning money in Europe and spending it in England. I was like, UK Home Office was like, yeah, keep doing this. Good bloke. More people like that. Come in, spend your money and piss off. So that was perfect for the economy. But to have a worker come in from overseas and earn British pounds and then take them away potentially, you have to have a visa to do that. So I applied for a visa, but HM Plant or Honda Racing weren't registered with the Home Office, so I couldn't get a visa. So I was like frantically saying, Harvey, you need to get straight away, get onto this. You need to get registered with the Home Office, give me a number, and I can then enter the country. What I didn't know, I learned later, is that you can't travel whilst you've got a visa in process. So the computer says, visa in process, you're not allowed to travel. I didn't know that. So I was like, well, I've come into the UK in and out for years. I'll just do the same thing. And once I've got my visa, then I'm tickety-boo. But until then, I'll just do it old school way. So I flew to the UK, arrived at Heathrow, cruising through, everything's good. Never even had like a sweat on because I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. Got to the thing, cannot pass, move over to this room here. In a room, they're like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, shit, do I start lying? Do I tell the truth? I don't know. So I was like, well, I'll just tell the truth. I've got all my paperwork. Everything's sweet. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just coming over to race motorbikes, BSB, blah, 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 HM Plant. Here's my paperwork. Here's my visa application, da-da-da-da. And they're going, yeah, you can't come in the UK. I was like, why not? And they're going, because you got a visa in process. I said, yeah, but, well, so what? And they're like, but that's the law. You can't come into the UK. If you've applied for a visa, you can't come in until you've got it, or you haven't got it, and then you can't come in at all. I was like, oh, all right, well, I said, can't you just put me on like a temporary entry? I said, fine me. I says, if I'm not out of the country after 7 days or 14 days or whatever, give me a £10,000 fine. I says, I said, just make, she goes, we can't make the rules up for individuals. She says, it's one rule for all. I was like, right, so what am I doing? She goes, you're going home. I was like, oh, okay. So I'd just done a 24-hour flight. Then after this little meeting in this little cubicle office, I then went into like a detention centre. And so I was there with all sorts of people that stay in detention centres for 16 hours. And then I was then on a flight back home. So I hadn't had a wash for a while. Wasn't feeling the best. A little bit upset about not getting in and about going home. I'm on the flight home. And so what they do is with the airlines, they reserve a bunch of seats for emergency situations. So like obviously the airport, the Home Office or whatever says, no, you're not allowed to go home. So they make you go home. But they cover that flight. So I abandoned, obviously, my normal paid-for return flight, which would have been at the end of the season. But they've paid to get me home ASAP. So after 16 hours, back on a flight, and I'm in the last seat, closest one to the bog. And because that's the last 3 in the plane that they hold for these circumstances. So I'm sat there just, dwelling on all the facts that had gone on. This girl somewhere up the plane, had been drinking quite a few red wines and got flight sick. She's running down the plane, right?
No.
She's running down the plane with her hand over her face, trying to hold the sick in, and it's squirting through her fingers like a fountain. And all I get is this spray of... Well, I'm sat there like it's darkness, in the middle of a flight, long haul flight, it's darkness. I'm watching my little tiny TV here, just chilling. Next thing, it's just like... And I was like, what the frig was that? And I'm like looking, and the smell of sick.
Oh,
and I'm
man,
like,
no way.
oh man, that's sick. And then I literally took my clothes off that I had on. I don't know how I got out of my clothes so quick. I was just like, boom, I was out. I was just in my undies, and I had some other clothes in my backpack. I got other clothes on. I was in the toilets, like washing my face. It was in my hair. And I'm like, can this trip get any worse? So anyway, I got home, and then that website, crash.net, I was getting smashed. How is this guy such a fool? He can't even get a visa. How hard is it to fill your name and your parents' name in a piece of paper and send it in, and just copping it. So Steve Plater rode the bike for me, open round at Brands Hatch. By the time Alton Park come round 2, I'd had my visa. Honda had got their application in. My visa had been accepted. I'm allowed in the UK. Fly in. Everything's good. All that's in the past. Forget it. Let's move forward. Alton Park. Never been there before. Hardest track in the UK to learn. Don't know where I qualified. I was like third row, I think. I remember I was on the grid next to Gary Mason. That's all I remember. But what stood out was it was a patchy, wet Alton Park, cold day. And I'm like riding, and I thought everyone in BSB was psycho. Like watching Kianari go across wet patches at full lean angle, and I'm like, you're on slicks. This isn't meant to happen. Like, what are you doing? So I had this like proper like reality check about how hardcore BSB was. I think I got like maybe an 8th or a 9th. You could probably check the history. I don't remember, but I did all right, but it wasn't amazing. And then I can't remember where the next round was. Oh, sorry, I do. It was Donington Park. Or was there a round in between? Anyway, I got to Donington Park, and everything was going pretty good. I think I might have been second row. It's not important. Went out for my sighting lap and got to Melbourne Loop. I was actually following Sylvain Gintoli, and he was fast, rapid at that time. So I was actually, and I hadn't been on track with him because I do my usual thing and stay on my own during practice and qualifying stuff. I just like my own bit of space, and I don't go with other people, just do my own thing. So I hadn't actually been on the track with many people that were at the front. So I was like doing warm-up. I was behind Sylvain, and he was going rapid for a warm-up lap. So I thought, I'll stick in behind him, and I'll see if there's anything he's doing that really stands out. And we come down into Foggy S's. Eric was good. Followed him through, watched him change direction. Come out of Foggy S's, accelerating up over the hill. Went for the brake, nothing. And I was like, oh, shit. And it's just, all this happens in split seconds. Went again, and then just, boom, hit Gintoli and wiped him out. And I genuinely thought I'd killed him. The speed I hit him at and how the impact, the sound and the feeling and everything of the impact. I was off the bike, he was off the bike, and I didn't even want to look. I didn't want to go over and check if he was all right because I thought...
You killed him.
I thought I'd killed him. I thought at that speed, I've probably killed him. So I probably, in a perfect world, you'd go up and say, hey, mate, are you all right? But in the fear of seeing a dead person, I just, beelined it for the paddock, for the pits. I was like, friggin' hell, what's happened? And I'm trying to comprehend what's just happened. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I had no brakes. Like, how does that even happen? I've never in my life had a bike with no brakes. It's like the first time. I was like, wow, this is
and
new.
you feel like you've killed
and I feel
well.
it. Yeah. And then straight away I'd heard on the thing, rider down, possible broken leg. I'm talking to the medics. I'm thinking, man, this guy's superhuman if he hasn't been killed by this accident. But I'm thinking, all right, that's good. He's all right. Now I can focus on getting ready for the next race, blah, blah. Anyway, it went a really different angle than what I thought was going to go. So I got back to the pits, and they're like, what's happened? I said, I had no brakes. And I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. So the mechanics were like, well, thinking to themselves, right, now the blame has been moved from the rider onto them. So they're all feeling like white in the face and going, like trying to imagine, did I do those brakes up? Did I do that lock wire? You can imagine the thought in their head.
Oh, yeah.
So next thing, I didn't get to go out in the next race. Went into like a steward's inquiry or whatever it would be to try and understand all what went on. There was photos of it. There was CCTV camera footage of everything that went on. There was bike data, blah, blah, blah. And basically I sat there expecting them to say, all right, we found that, this happened and you didn't have brakes and blah, blah. And they turned it all on me. They're going, oh, well, after our meeting, we've recognised that it was just rider error, and you made a mistake, and you're going to have a 2-race suspended ban. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Why are we going on to stage 2? Let's get stage 1 figured out here first. I didn't make any mistakes. I said I had no brakes. But I think what had happened was that if Honda had accepted that they had no brakes, they'd have been liable for Quintoli. So I'd say there was some sort of behind closed doors meeting and said, what's the best way to find an outcome to this? They said, well, a racing incident's a racing incident, so we'll just say it was that. So next thing, the guy from Australia that couldn't come into the country has now wiped out the French favourite, and it's like...
Crash.net's going to have a field day.
100% field day. So I'm like, wow, how bad can things get? And I'm trying to argue my case. I'm like, look at the data. And they're going, yeah, the data shows no brake pressure, but we don't know that you didn't pull the brake on. We only have data on the brake when it's pulled. We don't have the data for when the brake isn't pulled. So just because we don't see brake pressure doesn't mean the brake didn't work.
What?
And I'm like, go and check the bike now. They go, but it's been in a crash, so that could happen after the crash.
Yeah, funny that, because I didn't have brakes in the first place.
And they're going, so basically what it is, you were riding at a speed unacceptable. So the technical position from them was the rider was riding at a speed unacceptable for a warm-up lap. And I was like, I was doing the same speed as Gintoli before I had no brakes. I mean, I wasn't doing anything out of the normal. I said, I had no brakes. And they're going, yeah, but you probably just panicked. I says, when do you see someone panic and let go of the brake?
I'm
and
a professional rider.
Yeah.
I've made it this far in my
career. I know, this is what I was
brilliant.
trying to say. And they're all just standing there like fools, and I'm like, how can this be real? You know, but obviously at the time I didn't know the background of like the political element to it. So I'm like trying to say, look at the photos. I says, when someone's like panicking, normally the brake's on, the front wheels, like the front guard is like jammed up in the fairing, the back wheel's sideways, there's smoke coming off it because you've gone in too fast. I said, my bike is like a dart. I says, you can fit a basketball between the fairing and the front fender. I says, the first photo I've got 2 fingers on the brake. The second photo I've got 4 fingers on the brake. The next photo I'm just about to hit Gintoli. I says, can you not see that that's a desperation trying to make the bike stop when it can't?
And you can clearly see the front's not
compressed. It's not down. The bike is in a perfect straight line. It's not sideways. The front's not compressed. The fingers are, like you can see, the first time I must have been pinching my fingers because I brake with 2 fingers. So the brake lead would have been pinching the other 2 fingers. And then I've obviously gone, that's not working. Released and gone for 4. There's another photo. I've got 4 fingers on the brake, and then I hit him. And I'm like, how come I'm not talking to sane people? What's wrong with you? Have you not been in motorbikes this long? But I was fighting a losing battle. So anyway, they were trying to calm me down. They're going, look, you're not suspended. You're not banned. It's a suspended ban. So you've got 2 rounds of being a good guy and not doing anything wrong, and you'll be fine. If you do another big mistake in the next 2 rounds, then you'll get the ban. I'm like, all right, cool, no worries. So I went off. I can't remember the rounds, but I had a couple of good rounds. I think I went to Thruxton and got my first podium. So I was like, all right, we're starting to claw back, but I'm still getting smashed on crash.net for them. Smashed, like honestly, you couldn't even look at it. It's lucky I've got thick skin because the amount of grief I got on there was unreal. And then and what I was looking forward to was Cadwell Park because I was thinking, yeah, this is going to be good, right? And but what happened? We went to Thruxton. We had this all brand new singing and dancing engine. It had a light and crank, tie rods, light and pistons. It was it made more power than a MotoGP bike. Didn't, but that's the perspective that everyone thought we're on. And I couldn't steer. I says, I'd go into turn 1 at Thruxton. I said, I'd turn in and would turn in like so easy. I said, but as soon as I got the apex, it would just start to drift off and go where it wanted to. I said, it doesn't turn. What have you done to my bike? But anyway, because of the nature of Thruxton, and I've had a great career at Thruxton, I was actually able to get a podium. So everyone was like, oh, this new engine's the nuts. He's got a first podium. This is the way forward. We went to Mallory Park and I qualified, I think 15th or 17th. It was bad. Like all through practice, struggle. And Tuxworth's going, oh, you just don't know the track. That's all it is. I said, how can I go from the podium last weekend to like Mallory and 15th or 17th on the grid? What? I'm going, the engine sucks. I cannot ride this bike. And they're going, but you got 3rd at Thruxton. I said, it's a different track. Forget Thruxton. I said, it was a tyre war. It wasn't about an engine. I said, that's all that was. I says, here we really need a bike to work. I said, it's not working. And I went on and on and on until finally for morning warm-up, they broke and they said, all right, we'll give you the other engine back. I was fastest in morning warm-up. I went from 17th, then race 1, I went from 17th on the grid up to 4th. And I had 8 laps to go and 4 people in front of me, and I spent 4 laps behind Chris Walker, because Chris Walker's quality and particularly good on the brakes. So the only way really to pass at Mallory, I'd done plenty of passing, because obviously I went from 17th to 4th, but the only way to pass was on the brakes.
All brakes.
So I couldn't, with Walker being so good on the brakes, I'd have to do something superhuman to outperform him. So I didn't really know why it was taking so long. I was getting frustrated. I'm like, I've been passing people like a madman, and I said, I've got to Walker, and now I'm 4 laps in on this one guy, and I can't get past him. So I kind of lined myself up. And as I went to go around the outside, you can kind of hear someone, I suspect, when I was coming wide, he sort of thought, I'll just give you a little bit more track to use over there than normal. Obviously defending your position. But that put me in a position of track I'd never been on. So I jumped on the brakes and went over this. There used to be a tree in the middle there, and the track's got a big lump in it. So I was like on the brakes to try and out-brake Walker to start with. And as soon as I grabbed the brakes, it went over that rise and just sailed in on the front. I was just like coasting on the front tyre. You can watch it. It's on YouTube. And I'm just coasting in on the front tyre. And obviously the only way for the efficiency of the bike to get better for braking is to get the back wheel back on the floor. And so I kind of like let off the brake again, and the bike kind of twiggles a bit as it recovers grip. But then as soon as I went back to the brakes, it was back up on the front wheel. I was just carrying way too much speed. And at this point, Simon Andrews is starting to come across the apex of the Mallory hairpin. And I'm like, oh, and I was like, obviously desperate to try and get the bike stopped. So I stayed on the brake and actually crashed the bike like in a sort of like an endo crash. And the bike slid through and didn't hit anyone. But because it was like such a high position, because it was upright whilst I was braking, when it fell from that height, it just burst the engine cases open. And for that reason, now we've got these race covers and stuff on the engines. But back then you didn't have them. It was just an aluminium engine cover. And the bike fell over, and because it's aluminium cast, it's quite brittle, it just burst, and it left a streak of oil as it went through. I slid through and hit Simon Andrews with my hand. If you actually look, I slid through and almost missed him, but my hand hit the back of his bike and made him crash. So Simon crashed, and then I slid off and walked to the bike, and but when I turned around, everyone was crashing on my oil. Because there was a little streak of oil, everyone just went like dominoes, boom, 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 boom. And like Leon Camier and James Ellison had got like a bad qualifying, or something went bad with their weekend, and they were like on the 5th row or whatever, and they just given the result, because they just rode through, saw where all the carnage was, and just went, oh, it's right over here, away from all the carnage. Around the corners was like 1st and 2nd. And in that year, Leon won like 14 races in the year. So everyone was like, of all the people to win, it's the guy that's already just won everything already, and now he's going to go and win another 2 because it's handed to him. Well, anyway, as you can imagine, worst bloke in the world's just gone and made that podium position even higher. So I would probably say that was the worst day of my life. I went to walk over to the like the marshal car, like the medical car or whatever was there obviously after the accident, because the race got red flagged. And I went to walk over thinking, oh, they'll give me a lift back the pits. They shut the door and drove off on me. I was like, oh, okay, all right. So even the people in the paddock, like Laura Stevens, gave me the worst stink eye. Like, I'm great friends with her now, but I remember really clearly the stink eye she gave me was like, you are a piece of shit. And I was thinking, fucking hell, like you work so hard in your life to get to a point, and you've gone through so much shit, and it's so much of it's out of your hands, and then it just seems to get compounded. And I'm walking down the track to get back to the paddock, which I was sort of hesitant to go back to anyway. And people were booing me from the side of the track. So I was like, all right, fair enough. They don't know all the story, and I've just wiped out a load of people by the looks of it. And I was like, well, I was already thinking, well, my mission now is to try and clear my name. And I feel like I'm still doing that now. Even to today, I still feel like young lads like yourself that probably don't know all this history just think, oh, that's that lad that goes decent in British Superbikes. But I feel like there's a majority of the viewing public have watched all this go on, and they still got that oh, that's that
Niggle.
idiot.
Aye.
And and because they just read all the comments and all the headlines that sell papers, it just sold me out to be the worst bloke in the world.
There was that sort of bad boy Brookes image, sort of. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
you sort
yeah.
of embraced it.
Yeah, but I did. I even shaved.
graphic,
Yeah, I even shaved my head and did things like, I was like, if I'm going to be a bad boy, like I'll grow sideburns and shave my head and just be like, if that's what I'm going to get named,
get a
I might as well live the name. But yeah, it just sucks. So obviously then what's weird, right, is I did the 2 rounds and cleared my name. It's like doing time in prison. Once you come out of prison, you've done your time. You're clear with the world. You're rightfully in a position to move forward, but you're still an ex-con. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You never
You're
really
stamped.
clear your name. You're stamped. So I got a 2-race ban. I'm like, well, hold on. I says the 2-race ban was a suspended ban if I didn't do anything wrong for 2 rounds. I did my 2 rounds and I've cleared myself. Now I've done something wrong. So why am I getting a 2-race ban now? If I'd done it the round before where I was still in the suspended period,
Of course, aye.
I says, fair enough. I said, but I broke that period of time. I'm in the clear now, and now you're still giving me a 2-race ban. They says, oh, well, we need to see to be doing something more penalising than what we did before. So this is just a new...
So you're an example.
An example, yeah. So I got 2-race ban, didn't get to ride Cadwell. Didn't get to ride Brands Hatch, which I'd raced in World Supersport 2 years in a row, so I knew that track. Didn't get to ride Cadwell with the jump,
Where you've done all the homework.
where I've done the homework and just was looking forward to jumping a bike. And it was probably one of the reasons I wanted to come to BSB was for the jump. It did genuinely, like, had an effect of some degree. I was like, that's a cool jump. I'd love to go to BSB one day and do it.
That, yeah.
So when I was like contracted in to do it, I was like, yeah, let's get to Cadwell. And then I got to Cadwell, I had to watch. And I was like, this sucks. So then, so I ended up losing. I lost both races at round 1, both races at Donington, both races at Mallory, both races at Knockhill. Both races at Cadwell because of the ban, both races at Brands Hatch because of the ban. So that's a lot of races. I still come 4th in the championship. So maybe the depth of field wasn't as strong. But what the races I did finish, I did pretty well for a first timer. But there was so much other chaos that it just overshadowed everything. So then what I did, I was desperately angry at Honda. There's no way I wanted to ever see a Honda motorcycle again in my life because they'd sold me out.
You've gone from that fuzzy feeling of a Honda, I love
to
Honda,
these
love
people
Honda.
are crooks. And and I was like, there's no way I'm riding for Honda again. But what had happened is all the people on this crash.net and websites and all the other things went, oh, you wait till the contract. Honda would never sign him again. I'm surprised they didn't send him home already, send the con back to Australia. All this sort of stuff was going on for all these periods. So what I had to do was re-sign for Honda just to show people, if I was so bad, why would Honda re-sign me? Why would I get a second year? You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't. If I was the bad guy that everyone thought that I was, there's no way Honda would even put themselves anywhere near. But they'd seen through all the crap I had been through, and I'd still put the bike on podiums. They went, we need this guy. He'll come good. So I re-signed for him, and Keogh did his trademark thing, rode crap all of 2010, and then in the showdown went, now's the time to turn it on. Went and win. Like the last round, I think he won 3 races at Alton Park, was the final, and took the championship. I got second. I was like, bastard. and then I went and rode for Philip Neal and met Amy, and everybody knows the current history.
So we've obviously covered a lot of stuff about like earlier on in your career, and time's marching on here. It's getting on for 11 o'clock.
I was about to say, you kids have got a busy day tomorrow.
Got a big day tomorrow. But one thing that I really wanted to ask you about was obviously there was an introduction to road racing, Isle of Man TT. I presume you obviously went over to watch before signing. What was your first taste of the road racing?
So it was 2009, that dodgy year. Honda invited me to go out, and I'd certainly heard about the TT. I didn't took much notice of it, but I was keen to go because I thought free travel, hotel, go out at night with the boys to the bar, watch some motorbikes race around. Yeah, I'm up for that. That sounds cool. So they said, "Oh, would you come over?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." So got a flight over, and I shared a car because Honda organised everything. So I got out the airport. A person come and picked me up in a car, and I was sat with Phil McCullen, but I had no idea who he was. I was just sat there, some old dude in the car next to me. And so we started chatting. I quickly clicked on that he was an ex-racer. So
Did he start off with I've won 5 Ulster Grand Prix?
Nah. He didn't. But I actually felt a bit guilty afterwards. I was like, oh, I should have really known he was, you know. But I fortunately didn't say anything like that would have made myself look foolish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt like I should have known who he was for where I was going to the TT and not knowing anyone. So and went up to we pulled up the back of the paddock. I walked. They give us the passes and stuff to walk through. So I walked up, and the track was live at the time. So everybody was up in the holding area, and it was a live practice. And I can't remember which day it was. I think it was... Anyway, it was a live circuit. And I just got all those normal emotions. Like you're riding it, and I could see, like I could pinpoint the Honda truck right up there at the front. That's the truck I normally operated out of a BSB weekend. So that felt normal. Oh, there's the truck. And I saw, you know, the guys that were working in the team, and, you know, my usual mechanics were there in their overalls that I would, you know, oh yeah, there's the lads, you know, everything like normal race weekend. And you had that smell of the fuel, the smell of the tyres, the noise of the bike, people carrying stands around. It was just like being at a race weekend.
You feel like you wanted to put your levers on and just go out.
Yeah, well, a few seconds later, so I'm kind of walking up, and then walk straight into the holding area, and then up onto where that gate is, you know, where the little portable toilet is in the gate.
Yeah, there's only 4. What's that about? There's 80 competitors and there's only 4 pisses.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
So I went up to like that little area and like stood at the gate, and bikes come through like, woo, and like instantly I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a go at this. And it was like it was like a trigger. I was like, I'm definitely gonna have a go at this. And I was confused because it was. Yeah, I don't know. It was like, it's like someone saying, "Oh, you should have a go at being gay," and it's like, no. And then all of a sudden, you've got this idea that that's what I want to try and do, and you're like, no, that wasn't the plan. How did we get so far? How did we deviate so far from where we feel comfortable? How did we get so far off the road in a split second? It was like, I was like, wow, I'm actually going to do this someday. And then I just set about doing it. And that week, that few days that I was there, I must have did, I think, maybe 9 laps. I borrowed a bike. It was a standard road bike Honda had, and I just rode around. And just every opportunity I had, I just rode around the track. I didn't know where I was going, what it was doing. I was just following the barriers, and just when it looked tight, slowed down. When it looked open, I went faster, and it just started from there. And the next year, I said to
it was like back being 14, going to work on the open roads.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's similar. Like I was straight away thinking I could probably. I was trying to calculate how I could convert road, like short circuit racing, and like, because I do like not a lot, but a bit of road riding in Australia. So I was like, I know how to ride on sketchy, dodgy changes and ranges of tarmac and unpredictable road surfaces, and I can race at a high level. I'm thinking I've just got to put these two together somehow. My brain was trying to do the mechanics of it all, and I'm like, I think I could do this, you know. And I'm like riding around and thinking if I could just learn the track, and then so the next year I spoke to I didn't really go about it the right way. I just sort of like kind of kept mentioning it. I said to Harvey and to Tuxworth, I was like, oh, I should have a go at the TT, and they kept like dismissing it. They're like, oh, no, you don't need to be doing that. I was like, well, I don't need to do anything. I need to eat, I need to breathe, but after that, everything's because of what you want to do.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm like, well, actually, I don't need to, but I want to, you know. And I was like, kept kind of like chipping away, but it kept getting like a real solid door shut on the idea. It wasn't even like, oh, really? You'd like to have a go? It was none of that. It was just like, no. And then I went and rode for TAS, and I said to Philip Neal, oh, I'd like to have a go at the TT. And then they kind of laughed it off, thinking I was joking. And then the next year it was Taiko Suzuki, and then I again said, oh, I'd like to have another crack at it. And they were like, nah, and they laughed it off. But I was like, really...
That's a bit of a shock for me, mind. You think...
I don't know if they thought I was serious, because I don't really do anything like corporately. I'm kind of just, like at one point there was a long time into our 2012 season, we didn't even have a contract. Philip Neal and I, we were like maybe 6 rounds into the year, and we didn't even have a contract. It was just like a gentleman's agreement.
And proper.
Yeah, like my word's the strongest thing as you're going to get. So if I've given you my word, then we're sweet. So, and Philip Neal knew that, so he was like of the same opinion. So we were just going about business, and he came up to me one day, written a bit of fuss, and he goes, "Oh, Suzuki are going to go mad if they don't realise that we've not got a signed contract, because I guess insurances or business rules or whatever it is, if there's not a sign, it makes a whole mess of things." So he was like, we really should have had all this stuff done. There's nothing in it you need to worry about. I just need for corporate, like technicalities to have a signed contract. So that's the sort of arrangement we're on. So I don't think he really thought I was serious, and because I didn't say it in black and white on paper that this is what we're doing, it kind of just got brushed over. So I was like, it's another year I've lost, and I've not got the TT. So the next year when we were up to signing, I says, if you don't sign me to ride the TT, I'll go and ride for Padgett's. And so it was just like blackmail, basically. I says, either we ride TT or I don't ride for you.
Yeah, damn right.
So that's how it started. And then...
How did he take that? Was it just like...
No, he just knew I was serious. He was happy for me to ride. He thought it was brilliant. But he did he wasn't that brilliant about it. He said, I'll only let you ride if you don't make a penny out of it. He goes, I don't want to have this. He goes, I've got this inkling that you think there's money in roads. So I don't want you to ride and think you're going to earn money out of it. If you want to do it, you do it for nothing. I paid for my own ferry to get there, everything. It cost me money to race the TT in 13.
That's a massive. I wasn't expecting that at all. For me,
because
I thought it would be like you would be doing well at BSB, and then there would be a chance to make like a lot of money in like 2 weeks.
No, it cost me money.
Yeah,
it cost me money. I had to pay for everything.
Like
obviously, I didn't pay for tyres and fuel and the bike. Like the bike was mega. It was so good. Like to get a chance to first time to ride the TT on a TAS bike. Is like, I didn't realise how lucky I was to have that opportunity. I do now, but at the time I just thought, I'm just going to do a race. But now I recognise how good they are at prepping for that event, and the bike was just class. It was the best bike to ride as a rookie to ride on that track.
I think that's really good from Philip's point of view as well, to make sure that you were doing it
for the right reasons. Yeah. I think that's he was really scared that something would go wrong, and he would find out later I was doing it for money, and it all went to piss. So he was just adamant that it had to be for the right reasons, and the only way he felt like he could prove it was for the right reasons is that I didn't make any money out of it. So
I like that. I like that.
But even that sucked. I don't know exactly how many laps I did. I worked it out because I went 09. I did, I think, 9 laps or 4 laps or 5 or whatever. So I kind of went 09. I did that laps. 10 I did maybe 5 laps. Then 11 I did this, and I kind of went through and figured out how many laps. I think I did about 100 laps around the track of the TT before I did a lap on the TAS bike. Completely. It was around 100. If it was 105 or it was 95, it was somewhere. It was in that range. So I felt like I'd reached the limit of what I could learn going around, walking, bicycling, motorbikes, cars, bus.
You were comfortable left. You were comfortable right.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I just felt like I'd exhausted every avenue there was to learn something without having a closed road and doing it properly.
Yes.
I'd even ridden around in a coach listening to John McGuinness talk, and he talked more about his foreskin and stuff than he did about the track. But I mean, it was good laugh. It was crack. But
the man can win TTs. So there, yeah.
So I went. It was funny bus ride, but I was there to try and learn stuff. But I went there, and the first day was rained off. The second day was rained off. The third day was cancelled because my teammate was killed. A Japanese guy came over and paid for a super sport position, and because TAS made great bikes, he bought Balagari.
Balagari jump.
Jumped, got it all wrong, like we were talking about with the jump at Cadwell. Got it wrong, landed crossed up or whatever, got in a big tank slapper. Didn't really hold it pinned and ride out. Just wobbled until he reached the edge, and it was a bad day. So I was like, no ride, cancelled lap. And I'm like, oh, man, this is mental. I still haven't done any laps. So they extended it and they moved the first race to the Saturday. Well, where's the first race normally? It's normally
Saturday. Saturday's first superbike race. Yeah. And then Sunday nothing.
So they moved it to the Sunday. Mad Sunday. That's right. Mad Sunday got cancelled and they put racing on. So they moved it a day to try and get some extra time, but I still had dodgy time. So the first race. So I got a couple of practices and everyone's going, you're going too quick, slow down. And I was just riding like I was on a Sunday ride. I was not going too quick. Inside the helmet, it didn't feel quick. But I didn't want to be that guy that ended up in a wooden box and thought, I wish I'd listened. So I was kind of like trying to ride the balance of listening to everyone saying I'm going too quick, but still listen to my instincts of going, well, I don't feel like I'm in danger. So I was going through practices and everything, went into the opening race, and the second lap, so did the opening lap off the start. I'm on the second lap, and I started getting this vibration. And I use a thumb brake. So I'm using the thumb brake. There's horrible vibration coming through the thumb brake and through the whole bike. And I'm like, oh, that's not right. So I thought I might start using my foot brake. So I used my foot, and it was even worse because obviously you got more power in your foot than you have in your thumb. So when I used the foot brake, it was even worse. I'm thinking, oh, should I stop? Should I keep going? I don't know what it is. If I don't touch the brake, it's sweet. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's a pad's broken. I'm thinking, well, why would a pad create a vibration? And then I'm thinking, oh, maybe the disc has come loose and it's vibrating. So I'm like trying to, in straight lines, like trying to look down and see if I can see something wrong with the bike. And when I looked down, everything looked sweet, like it proper looked like it should. I'm thinking, where's this horrible vibration coming from? And I thought, oh, well, I've only got the mountain to go, so I'll just get to the pits because then we've got a wheel change and I can find out what's going on. And I'm like, but what if something happens between now and the pits? You know, I'm like, it's a long way to ride with a dodgy bike. And I was like, I'll chance it. So I rode to the pits, and I'm in the pit stop, and they've seen a section of the rear disc had broken out. So when the wheel was spinning really quick, I couldn't see the gap. But when I went to put the brakes on, the pad was trying to fill the gap, and then the disc would come into position again and force it back. So I was feeling this massive vibration from the disc being broken. So I'm like turning around on the bike going, what's wrong with the wheel? And they've seen it straight away. It's like stood out when the bike's standing still. You got this big section of the disc missing. They've gone in panic. Oh, don't tell him, it'll spook him. But I'm the other way. I wanted to know what it was so then I could clear my mind. I'm going, there's a vibration. They're going, it's sweet, it's sorted, it's fixed. And I'm like, yeah, but what is it? I need to know what it was so I can then ride on comfortably.
Mind, yeah.
And they picked the wheel up and showed me the wheel. I was like, oh, sweet, it's just a disc. So I set off like mad. And I don't remember the rest of the race, but I did 127.7. And that was the fastest newcomer on the opening.
Up to that date, yeah, you were the
fastest. Yeah, it was 125, I think, was Steve Platers, and I nicked it off him.
No. Oh, and Simon... No, Simon Andrew. Yes, anyway.
Yes, maybe it was Simon. I can't remember, but... I got fastest newcomer in the opening race, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Everything felt safe apart from that dodgy disc. And then went to Superstock. I hated the Superstock bike, but I thought it's just good laps. So I rode Superstock, and we had a new chain fitted, and we had kind of, not young, but like youngish into racing mechanics. So they kind of got, like, they were in their apprenticeship, so they got the Superstock bike to work on, and my BSB mechanics got the Superbike to work on.
Yeah.
And they fitted a fresh chain thinking that's the thing to do. It's a long race, put a fresh chain on with a chain stretch and started jumping teeth on the sprocket. So I came in and I was like, that's a sign. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the bike, it didn't feel good. Another thing was, Philip Neal suggested when I was going to do the TT, I just rode Supersport, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I want to ride my Superbike.
We get a lot more races to begin with, so...
Yeah, but my theory about going into it was I wanted to ride a bike that I knew. The track's not what I know, the tarmac's not what I know, the corners are all weird. At least the bike under me is the bike I race every weekend in BSB. I know this girl, like, she's my best friend, so that's the bike I wanted to be on. So when I was on Superbike, I was happy. But when I was on Superstock, it was this weird thing that the brakes didn't feel right, the tank was weird shape because it wasn't the same as my Superbike, the seat felt wrong, the power was weird, the tyre, I just didn't get on with it. I had a bad feeling right from the start. So when the chain stretched, I was like, that's like the world telling me to get off this bike, it's going to kill you. So I was like, all right, cool, walked away from it. So again, missed all these laps of practice. And then, so it's the final senior race, and went out on my Superbike, fully pumped, all good, ready to go, and this misfire started occurring. And I was like, you can't be serious. So I made it up over the mountain. And honestly, it was the perfect day. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It was a perfect, clear, sunny day. And I was coming over the mountain. Even with the misfire, I was like, this is cool. You know what I mean? Like, I knew I was going to the pits and I was going to have to pit in. And I was just thinking, if I never do the TT again, just soak this up. You got this run. Because the bike was still accelerating like proper. But it just cut every now and then. And it was like, well, I can't. And actually, it was starting to get worse after a period, so I was like, well, I'm just going to have to go to the pits. So I went into the pits and was hoping that it was something like they could just fix, but what I had is an earth bracket, like the main harness of the wiring system where it bolts to the frame. The vibrations of the race had fatigued and it had snapped, so it had lost that constant earth connection, and the dash kept coming down. So that was the end of that TT. So I literally got one race, and I was nearly out of that with the broken disc.
Obviously, the as you've just mentioned, the TT is very much it tests the man and the machine, and obviously the first time going there with Taz, you know, one of the best teams for road racing and very prepared bikes, and then later in your career, obviously you rode for the Norton, and which is very well known to have been having, you know, mechanical issues and like over the last few years. What year was it that you rode the Norton?
17 and 18.
17 and 18.
So 13. Quickly go through your TT rides and career. So 13 was your first year with Tyco.
Yeah, with Tyco. Then I went to SMR, Sean Muir, on a Yamaha.
Yes,
I rode
you
that.
did, yeah.
If that had been my first year, I'd have never gone near the TT again. That was the most scary, evil bike to ride around the TT course.
Was that
it
the
was
Dunlop
all
year? No, that was Milwaukee. Yeah.
No, I had Hutchie as my teammate.
That was it. Yes.
And I didn't do bad. Like Hutchie set off at number 3 and I was number 14 and I passed him. So obviously I'd made up, and Hutchie's a very competent rider around the TT.
Yeah,
so
the TT
but
one,
that the bike was obviously not working well. He hated it even worse than I did. I kind of just made the best of a bad situation, but I think the bike was built purely for BSB, like the way that it was. But so was my Suzuki, and it was a dream to ride around the TT. But that Yamaha, whatever they'd done with it to make it BSB like competitive, it just made it a horrible
bike to ride.
From Ginger Hall to Ramsey, I mean, it would rattle your feelings out. I had blurry vision. And then as soon as I got to the mountain, I'd make up. I think I had the fastest sector at some point. I can't, maybe Amy, I don't have the best memory, but there was seriously like some small sector or section of that I had the fastest point. And I was like, how can that be? But then because it rode smooth over the mountain, the bike worked. But when you got on the bumps,
Horrible.
it was trying to. And I think even the aerodynamics weren't particularly bad, because as soon as I went into 6th gear, it started to get into a weave. So when you're going through that Glen Tremont area and it's bouncy and you flat stick, it was like
Unsteady.
I was literally like locking me elbows in front of my knees and trying to use just like the physical breaking of your body to try and stop it, to stabilize the bike. It just didn't work. We just got something really, really wrong. So then I had a year off. I went and rode, because I rode BSB and won the championship in 15. And Sean wouldn't let me ride the TT because he just wanted me to focus on BSB.
And that was on the new ship.
Yeah, that was the new Yamaha.
It came out. You won the championship.
Won the championship.
That was your first British, wasn't it? No.
Yeah, my first British championship win.
Yeah.
Championship.
Yes.
We had
there we
Mick
go.
Shanley on the podcast.
Yeah.
There we go. Yes.
So that'll clear that year up. And then, but I wasn't allowed to ride the TT. It was just BSB. Focus on that. Don't want a distraction. The next year we went to World Superbike with BMW, and they were
Sean Muir again.
Yeah, Sean Muir again. I wouldn't have really wanted to ride the BMW anyway. I didn't like the bike particularly. But they were like, definitely no. We're doing World Superbikes. No TT. Forget that. So I kind of lost. It kind of became a distant thing, the TT, in my mind. It was sort of like out the way.
It was almost like a tick in the box for you at that point.
Yeah, and then, but I still had this like thing I wanted to go back, and because I knew that first year was so good and it wasn't right. The second year was on a bastard of a bike, and then I needed to sort of like tick another box. And then I don't really even know where the Norton thing started. It might even be another podcast. Hey?
Because you rode for tag. When you came back to BSB, you were allowed to do whatever you want.
Oh right, I was riding because that's right. I come back to BSB, and none of the major teams that were in BSB at the time wanted to pay a salary that was justified for what I thought I was worth. And they were like, "Oh, you've come off a bad year. Maybe you've lost your ability. We don't know. You're a bit of a risk." And I'm thinking, I'm a British champion. Like every year I've been in it, I've either been nearly won it or won it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like proper. Like in 2012, I would have won the BSB championship if it wasn't for the showdown. So on old
the cheddar, young'un. You're definitely worth the cheddar.
So that's what I thought anyway. Yeah. And then I was getting no's from everybody. No, you're gonna have to pay cut and all this sort of thing. I said, nah, stuff that. Tag will give me what my current salary was. They were happy to pay it. But then they were like, well, there's no one's going to ride for Tag. And I went, I will. So it's just a motorbike and a team and tyres, and as long as we get it all right, doesn't matter what colour it is or who you ride for. We just need to get all the ingredients right, and we'll be sweet. So I went rode for Tag, and then, but the beauty of riding for them is they're an independent. So I could they're a family-run team, really low like key compared to the big teams. So they were like, yeah, if you want to go and earn a little bit extra doing some road racing, do what you need to do, crack on. We support you. So I went and rode the opportunity came to ride the TT again. But then the other independent was Norton. But it was more than that. I took a great deal of pride in riding a Norton. Like, you know, when you know the history of racing and the TT and, you know, like the very first Grand Prix, like all these like superstar MotoGP riders walk around and they don't. I'm sure most of them they don't even know that the very first Grand Prix that they're racing in was at the TT. You know, Grand Prix number 3000 or whatever is going to be in MotoGP. Grand Prix number 1 was at the Isle of Man TT. they don't recognise that, you know, and they don't know the background of Norton, and they don't know the background of how the racing was established. All they just look at is how it is now in the lights and the glory, and I like to know a bit about the history. So once I did the TT, I started to read books and learn about stuff, and so to ride a Norton was like a privilege, an honour, a responsibility, pressure. There was loads that went into it. I was like really proud to ride the Norton, and I thought, again, like I said before, I'm still trying to feel like I'm trying to claw back that respect that I lost when I had that 09 season where I was sort of like the world's worst person. I thought maybe if I ride the Norton, then the British people will see I'm not a bad bloke. And so I rode it and, tried to work through the problems. I had a lot of problems, but we just tried to work through them. And then the second year, I thought it would get better, but it was more just a repeat of the first year. We polished it a bit, rolled it and sprinkled it, but it wasn't really.
Wasn't quite right, because to be fair, it's still the fastest Australian around there. Were you not teamed up with Dave O'Johnson?
Yeah,
at that point, so
131
point something. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
So it's fast for a Norton. It's quick.
Mm-hmm. That's
fastest
awesome.
Norton rider, which is like I'm actually quite
proud.
I mean,
damn right.
like you look at the history, and history's history. Like, you know what I mean, you can't change it. You can't take it away.
It's like Crash.net. Everything they write on there, it's history.
Yeah,
so it's solid forever.
But so you look at all the past riders and greats and things that have happened, and they're in history. So we look back at that and look at. So some point in time, people will look back, and my name is a part of that Norton history. I mean, it's not a great part when you look at the recent.
But we've said this 100 times. It's not the bike. It's never been the bike Norton, you know what I mean? Like, what's recently going on? The
motorbike's still
so
a class thing to do.
Exactly. So when people open up that British manufacturer, who's the fastest?
At the moment, it's me.
Exactly.
At this point in time, the fastest Norton rider around the TT
is Josh Brookes.
And the fastest Australian around the Isle of Man TT is Josh Brookes.
There we are.
Which I take huge satisfaction from that. It's like winning a MotoGP race in some ways.
Right. Would you like to take your current bike, your Ducati, around the TT?
How do you think it'd fare?
I think it'd do great. I mean,
would you like to race the Ducati at the TT?
Yeah, I asked Paul and he said no. Which is weird. He said Michael can ride it, but I can't.
Mm-hmm. He probably just wants you to concentrate on the British.
Yeah, or maybe just likes me better.
Now, I see.
See, I can't even ask that question. If you're going to pick a bike to go on to the TT.
Well, at the moment, it would be the bike I'm on, because the best bike I've ridden to date is the bike that I'm on.
Yes.
So, I was a little bit disappointed in the Yamaha year, because obviously I had a great year, the bike felt great, and I was thinking, what if I'd gone to the TT? But I don't know. What if, there's so many what ifs in life.
Now, I seen something, I think it was on social media this week, and it was I think it was at the BSB test, actually, one of the media things, and you were getting interviewed, and you were talking about the fact that you don't do any training, as in, like, you don't do any, like, gym work or any traditional training, which is like, because a lot of, I think, superbike riders, it's a bit of a dick measuring competition, like, who can do the most press-ups, who can put the fastest run on Strava, all that, and everyone's trying to, like, outdo each other, especially in the off season. And for like the main man, without blowing smoke up your ass, everyone's got you as like the championship favourite this year, certainly one of the top superbike riders, to come out and just to be sort of very open in the fact that you don't do anything like that.
I'm not a fat bastard, am I? I've got.
I'm looking at you going, how on earth do you like? What?
Amy's got a big smile on her. Well, I mean, what do you do?
I do cycle. I can't say that I don't do anything. I do road cycle, but
you're not obsessive.
I used to be. So in 2010, I would cycle like I don't know what it's in miles, but I'd do like 500 k's a week. I was obsessed with it, and then I got chronic fatigue. And I was like, so I had to take time away, because I was just looking for personal gains all the time. And I was like, this has actually become negative. Like, it's making me ride worse, because I'm chronic fatigued. And so I give up on the cycling, and then I lost the love for it. So then I just did some mountain biking for fun, just with buddies. People that actually aren't particularly fit, just guys that like to go out and ride. And I just go for the laugh. But I mean, when you're at home and you got I'm really active as a person. I don't sit still. Like, people ask Amy all the time, does he ever just sit down? But I'm doing stuff like, we're at the classic TT a couple of years ago and camped next to McGuinness, and he had a bit of a campfire set up and his friends around, and like I spent ages like smashing this pallet up to make some wood to put on the fire. And it's like it wasn't even my fire; it was John McGuinness's. But I saw that the fire needed wood, and there was an old pallet. So I'll do that. That's a job needs done, so I'll do it. And I just can't sit still. So I think that's why I'm the way that I am. It's not because of one particular training method that keeps you fit. It's just a lifestyle. I'm just always on the go. And I like motocross and I like jet skiing when I'm at home in Australia, and I ride trials bikes when I can.
It's just bike fitness is not gym fitness, but do you think bike fitness is very important? Because we've talked about that a fair bit on the pod about like motocross training, how vital is that? Everyone's got
to find what works for them. Yes. I think because I'm old, I've found what's worked for me.
You're a front runner of British. You're not old.
No, I know that. But, I mean, like if you're 19, that's like, like Casey Stoner retiring at 25, and Marquez winning a MotoGP at 19, everybody moved their focus from 19 to 25 is the area we're looking. So me at 37, I'm old, all right? I'm like way over the hill motorbike racer. I'm not old, if you're asking me, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't feel old.
Yeah. But in the social spectrum,
I'm old. But what it means is, like, people go on about Valentino, how has he kept racing all of these years? I've been racing as long as him. I just haven't been earning the same amount of money. My first race was 1988. I've got trophies in my house from 1988, and I've raced every single year until now. So,
what's your favourite trophy? Obviously, it would probably be the British Championship one. Oh no, but you've won worlds. You've done.
Yeah,
you've got replicas. You've got all sorts. Man.
I do. I know my favourite trophy is the Suzuka 8-hour trophy. It's got the deer on the top with a little bell that hangs off the deer's neck. I don't know why. I just like it. It's different.
There we are.
Yeah, I mean, because you get all these like big cups and fancy things, and you kind of. I mean, I don't mean to run it down, but you kind of lose it loses its importance when it's the same thing over and over.
Yes.
But when you get this little wooden. Oh yeah. It's lucky I bring Amy.
I know, I've got one of them.
It's lucky I bring Amy because
Amy. Sorry, I meant the classic TT.
Yeah, no, but you need to get one of them too. They're brilliant. Now she remembers it. I've had too many crushes. I forget a lot of stuff. I do like the Suzuka one. I do, but I do have. She has corrected me. My favourite trophy is the classic TT winning trophy because I rode. John got injured. And I rode the Winfield Pattern.
Do you remember chatting to me when we broke down before Conkerfields?
Oh, so you've met another time.
No, I have actually met him a few times, but I just don't answer his messages. You know what I mean?
No, I'm sorry, I don't remember that.
I broke down and said, "Oh, what do you make of them Avons?" He went, "They're shit." I went, "I think they're quite good." Anyway, and I just walked off and hid behind me.
Yeah, but the problem is,
he's harsh.
This is the problem I get all the time. Like when someone says to me, "What did you think of those Avons?" I'm comparing to my Ducati that I'm racing around here today. If ever you try to compare something, I instantly go to the best thing I know.
Got, yeah.
So if you go, how are those Avons? Are they shit? But that's not me being nasty. I just spurted out an answer to a question.
That was brilliant.
And that was the truth. They are. But if you compare them to a motocross nobby around there, they're brilliant. You know what I mean? Like.
When you put it, like, to put it blunt, that is.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm like a child. I just answer things.
Well, you should
like simply and logically. Like, are they good? No, they're not. But compared in my head to the best.
I'm just simple, no logic. So.
But John got injured. I got a call from Roger Winfield to ride his bike, the Pattern, and it's a phenomenal bike, brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
And so I rode that and won, and got the winning trophy. And apparently, I've been told by Paul Phillips that the classic TT trophy win is actually a bigger trophy than the senior at the TT proper.
Yep.
So my trophy that I've got is that's good.
It's big. So your trophy's bigger than Hickman's. There we are. There.
So obviously this year, 2020 is your second year on the Ducati. Last year was a very strong, successful championship campaign. Obviously went right down to the final wire, and when after a season you can always look back and, for example, your engine blew up at Snetterton, this that. Now, when you get to the end of the championship, those few points, podium credits or whatever, then become the difference potentially between winning and coming second in the championship. Obviously, you had a real strong year, finished brilliantly at Brands Hatch as well. What was it like being teammates with Scott? And obviously, he's a bit of a like flamboyant character. What was the dynamics in the team like? And like, did you share data? Were you friendly, or was it very much your side and his side? Or
it developed into my side and his side. Unfortunately, because like I said, this is tricky because I'm dancing on a fine wire here. So Giovanni was the representative from Ducati. So he was on paper independent. He would be a person from Ducati to be the connection between our race team and Ducati officially. So that's all fine. But then he's also got the role as Scott's crew chief. So I was kind of like, well, isn't that a conflict of interest? Personally. Yeah. But
seems a bit tipped to one edge.
Yeah, I was like, well, but I've never said anything to anyone because what's the point? You're only going to sound like a whinger. But and then also, like, me and Giovanni were the bottom of the barrel together. We were the Pond Life years ago, like 2006. We were Pond Life together, and he's gone right up to become successful in his field, and I've come right up successful. But we don't have that friendship, you know what I mean? It was kind of like rivalry, and that felt weird, because it's impossible to have one side of the team, the other side of the team, and not have rivalry. It's nature. It's human nature. So I think what the key factors are that Scott and I are very different in personality, and so we wouldn't in the world naturally migrate to each other as friends. Yes. We're just on different spectrums. Yeah. But and then when you put us in a competition level, he can see that I've got circuit knowledge, experience in the championship, understand all that. That's a threat to him. He's got youth and exuberation, you know what I mean? Like, that we've both got our strengths and techniques, and you've got to try and rival each other for where, and it's necessary to go to whatever length you need to try and intimidate or break or get in the mind of the other people. So there was a bit of behind the scenes, probably the public didn't know, a bit of like bickering, sort of. It never got any further than a small change of a word or a way a word is delivered, but you knew there was like or an action or a comment or an eyebrow, you know what I mean? Like, eyes. You know how you could eyes, yeah, there was never got anything further than that, but there was this distinct vibe in the garage that started to develop, and even like my team boss Paul was like, I've never seen the team like this before. I've never felt that tension in the air between sides. You know what I mean? So
it's difficult having two real strong championship contenders. Like,
everyone's
usually you'd have a number one rider and a number two rider, and sort of everyone knows the position. Where when you've got it's like a hierarchy thing, it really, isn't it? And you're both like alpha males competing to be the top of the tree, and it is difficult. You're always going to get like some
name another team that was like that. You've hit the nail totally on the head there. You name another team like that ever, who were so destined to win for
two riders in one team.
You know,
I've never seen
Lorenzo and Rossi when Lorenzo
first
came
up,
that's
a good example.
And there was a big wall in the garage.
So you stuffed that there.
No.
Yeah, go on, create an example.
Not a British. Not even a British. I'm trying to think. Really, that you've hit the nail on the head there as far as the BSB is concerned.
But like, Scott come into the garage at the official test the other day, and it was like that tension had just evaporated. Yeah. And he was like chatting to me about the bike, and I was talking to him about World Supers, and it was like, and I genuinely hope he does well. Like, I've got no begrudges against Scott. I've actually got him in my fantasy league team as the Superbike rider. So I genuinely think he's got talent, he's got skill. I mean, he's got all those great things that you need. But I think in the team dynamic and the personalities that we are, we're not. I wouldn't say we're ever probably be pals. You know what I mean? We're just professionals.
Two professionals.
And going into this year, obviously, I mentioned right at the beginning of the podcast, everyone that we'll have on, it's like, who have you got for the BSB Championship? Every single person says Josh Brookes. How do you feel going into a championship with that? I suppose you're carrying it's almost like a pride thing, but
it's what I'm trying to do is recover respect from people, that I'm not that dangerous guy that I was in 2009, that I was labelled. Like, that was, like I said, that was the worst day of my life when I got to that point that I was like, labelled that I genuinely wasn't that person, but I was labelled that person, and that hurts more. If you're a shit person and you're labelled that, then you go, oh, that's what I am. But when you know deep down you're actually not a bad bloke, but you've got this label that's almost the opposite of what you are, you feel like you need to defend yourself. And I didn't have a platform to defend myself. So the only way I can really ever truly feel like I can get back my credibility is through winning. So that's what I want to do. I just want to win and try and get people to go, you know what, I'm sorry about what I said. I've actually had, it's actually quite satisfying. I've had some people come up and they'll say, oh, you know what, I was actually one of those people that ripped into you on crash.net or whatever, and you're actually all right. I've changed my opinion. My wife thought you were this and I thought you were that, and then as it's turned out, I've got to know you and you're actually better. So I'm starting to, like, I'm making progress, I'm chipping away. So that's my motivation. I just want to win races and try and be the person, or show the people the person that I actually am. Because I think, like, what was interesting was listening to Christian's interview, and he goes, oh, I think people get Josh a lot different than what he really is. And I've had that all my life. People are always like said, oh, you're actually really different to how I thought you would be. And I'm like, well, where did you get the information of how you thought I would be? Who's spreading this? Oh, you shouldn't meet that Josh Brookes. He's this type of person.
But see, like, people read something and take what they want out of it. And the amount of people that we've had guests on this show, and people message in and call in, don't they? Come to us again. I didn't expect that. Didn't expect this. So there you go.
I think also you have a character when you've got your helmet on and you try, and I feel like I'm a little bit.
Well,
like
Amy
that.
thought you were a bellend straight off the bat, so there we go. You know what I mean?
Well,
and I was able to convince her.
Well done, young man.
You've got like a character. It is almost like playing a character, and I would say.
Yeah, but I'm at work.
Yeah, but like for
how
like people, if somebody watched me race and then they said they met us in real life, I think it's totally two different people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a little.
Well, this is with the relationship. Like we were laughing about this the other night. We're in bed and we're talking about what other like what people think about me, and I said to Amy, well, what are you saying? That she goes, oh. I'll say he's funny, and people look at her like, he's funny, and like we like I say some things and crack her up all the time, and vice versa. But it's like there's only a few people that really get that into that little inside of who I am. So 99% of the people kind of get that hard, crusty surface on the outside that's me racing at work, and I can't turn that off. You know what I mean? That's.
You don't need to.
I guess I don't know if it's what you need to do to become successful, or what's come as a result of being successful. I don't know where it comes from, but I just have this persona that it screams out, but it's not really who I am. It's just who I am in my work uniform. Yeah. It's like judging an actor or an actress. You know that. We never really know. We see them in the movies, but we never really know what they actually like, do we?
I think Carl Fogarty was quite like that, where when he was racing, he had to hate the people that he was racing against, and it was almost that, like, putting on this act of being this, like, and then once he retired, he can be best mates with everyone and relax and like in his personality. And I guess
I can relate to that.
I guess this is a good like things like this where we sit for like 2 hours or whatever and like sort of just open up.
Well, this is when I saw your program. I thought, this is great. These guys are doing what someone should have been doing before. I watched it. I was like, this is cool.
Because it gives, like, for example, when on race day you get a camera just before you're racing for like a minute in your face.
You're wound up.
You can't show any of your personality. You can't talk about anything meaningful. It's just I'm looking forward to the race.
Like this is a snippet of how my head works. Like when a media educated background person comes and asks me a question, I can answer to you because we're on the same page. I can go, oh, the front end's chatter and the tyre sucks and the bike's hard to ride, or it's really hot out there and it doesn't stop. But when there's this like media trained person that doesn't know anything about bikes, I really find it hard to communicate. I'm like, and then you go, well, I'm not actually talking to them. I'm talking to the people at home. But there's, that's the headspace you got to try and convert into. I know I've been asked a question that sounds stupid, but they're trying to ask me. It's not their fault. They're just trying to ask me something that's going to give the audience what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But I always get caught up in the person and what they've said, and it never really comes out with this like honest and sort of like depth of conversation. But in this environment, look, we're 2.5 something hours in, and there's still loads more.
I know we'll have to get you back.
Like with Scott, we'll have to come back. I'm happy to come back and tell more. But one thing I will say about Scott was funny. I can't remember what the interview was, but they said something about a rival, and if it were me, and in my career I'd raced hard and battled and beat Marc Marquez, if someone had said, "Oh, who was your greatest rival?" Even if he wasn't, I'd pick him because he's the highest standard. And Scott said Josh. So, in a way, what there wasn't a better credibility. I don't know the word, but it wasn't a better compliment. That's right, a better compliment he could have given me than be asked. If he just completely blanked me and went, "Well, in Moto 2, racing against Marc Marquez and all the list of the other blokes," I'd have just went, "Oh yeah, I'm just a pathetic BSB guy." But he picked me. Of all the people to comment,
was there any team orders, or was there anything where, like, for anything like during last year, where or was it just a case of like go out and just do the best job?
No. It was all fair. It was all fair. The bikes were spot on. Like, I mean, you couldn't have made his bike better for him, and you couldn't have made my bike better for me. It was just. Yeah, there was nothing in it like that. That was class.
I'll tell you what, we've got the PlayStation thing. Just while I'm getting this.
What, you got more time?
Who do you see as your biggest rival this year, or do you not? Is the one person that stands out, or is a few?
Nah, there's a few. This is the beauty of BSB, isn't it? There's a depth of field. I mean, every champion's got a huge depth of field, but if the bikes aren't capable of having parity, they're not always going to have the results that the guys are capable of.
Yeah.
You know, like BSB has what I think is a perfect set of rules to make every bike fairly close.
Yeah.
You know, certain tracks, certain riders will have their strengths, but more or less the depth of field is the way it is because of the way that the rule set is.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it really hard to pinpoint one person. But I mean, I think Tommy's going to be, obviously after last year, the reason I've kind of got this respect for being maybe the championship favourite is because of what I did last year. So if you use that as an example, then Tommy's got to be the next best, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But I think, you know, there could be like some changes in the wins, you know, like maybe Ryan Vickers will come strong, and I think Jason O'Halloran had a poor year last year, maybe didn't reflect how good he could have gone.
Yeah.
I think
he was plagued by injury a lot,
and luck and things. There's so many things going on. Taz is a class rider. You know, I think the Irwins are now showing that the Honda's gotten good. I mean, where do you finish? I mean, my teammate's going to come good. It's just like it could come from anywhere.
And so far, obviously, we had
Danny Buchan, like, his class as well. So
I had Spanish testing ages ago. Then there's been this big gap and a little bit of testing since. Obviously, you got up to Knockhill for a bit and BSB tests. How are you feeling with the bike? And like, look, we're at Donington, ready for the first round. Are you confident for the 3 races this weekend?
Yeah, everything's kind of gone as good as it can. Obviously, we've had a lot of setbacks this year, but everything on a bike and racing level has gone as good as it can. Bike feels good, super consistent. I'd like to have a little bit more sheer speed, but that normally comes for me in the race. I'm not really, like, I have my moments, but I'm not really a fast practicer and qualifier, which is an area I always try and work on. Mm-hmm. But racing is sort of like where the emotions overtake, and you kind of find your best. Mm-hmm. So no, I'm pretty confident with where we are. You have to come in with confidence.
Yeah.
So
right, let's get this.
I'm not confident about computer games though.
Yeah. Right.
Don't adjust me adjusted toggles.
Was it this? Yeah, it was this one.
Yeah, it was that one.
We'll get this loaded on. So do you have any like rituals or anything, or
no? I'm not superstitious. No. Like if you crash, it's because you made a mistake, isn't it? Like, you're not going to go and go, oh, I had those red undies on in that crash, I better not wear them again. You know, what's the point in that? Like, it's just
Stoner was very like that, and he always used to do like the opposite to what you were like supposed to
do. Yeah, like people put on the left glove, I mean their right glove first, so that things go right. You know, and I just pick up the nearest one. You know,
I was about to say, I'm always rushed off my feet. I just end up doing everything backwards anyway, so I haven't got time for it.
No, I don't really have. I mean, there will be some things, like I said, my helmets, I'm really particular with my helmets. I like the tear-offs done in a really particular way, and
no fingerprints.
It's got to be clean, and so there are little things, but it's more to do with an operational effect. It's not about a superstition. I just want things to be particular.
What's left on your bucket list, either racing wise or just like life in general? Is there anything that you really...
I'd like to go back and do I got second at the Northwest 200. That sucks. I got second everywhere at everything.
Just press X there as well.
We're going to keep asking you questions.
Okay.
This,
so yeah, I got second at the Northwest 200, which sucks. I would have liked to have gone a bit better.
Have we done the Ulster?
No.
Fancy it?
No. I can't do two things at once. We'll
No, well, you've got
We'll
to.
see
This is
this.
how this works. We just ask stupid questions like,
So,
is the
Suzu-
Jaffa cake a cake or a biscuit?
cake.
Cake. Go
It
on.
seems to me. But about to answer your original question, I'd like to do Suzuka 8 Hour again because I got second at that, and I'd like to try and win it. Suzuka's class, like I said, I like the trophy. I like the country. I like the race. I like the people. They make. I ride Ducatis at the moment, but they do make some good motorbikes. So I'd like to go back and do Suzuka. Maybe Ducati will go and do Suzuka. So I could do that.
Have they ever
Hey
done it?
Ducati, I want to go and ride Suzuka. I'd also like to do the TT again, but I don't like upsetting everybody. Like my family, my mum, and everyone's always worried. Everyone looks at you like it's the last time they're ever going to see you, and I hate that feeling. I just like to go and ride for myself.
Yeah.
So now. That's always a bit of a spoiler, isn't it?
Do you think you and Amy will stay in the UK, or do you see yourself going like retiring back in Australia, or?
Well, she's always going to be English, so that's not going to change. So she's always going to be tied to here. So her parents are always going to be here, her grandparents, that sister, you know what I mean? So you can't make any of those things go away. So we're always going to be tied to England.
Right.
But I'm the same, always going to be tied to Australia. So until we get old and worn out and can't travel anymore, we'll just have to do a bit of year here and a bit of year there and get the best of both worlds.
Whoa, Jackie. Yeah.
I actually suck.
I was just about to say that at you.
I actually suck there in real life as
There
well.
we go. What's your biggest regret?
Deep.
Right, next question.
Yeah,
Question.
no,
What's
you
your most
stumped me.
disgusting habit? Amy, what's his most disgusting habit?
Picking my nose.
Oh, come on, you must have a better
Yeah,
one
but she
than
doesn't
that.
like that, doesn't she? What?
What? Go on, speak
So
louder.
on the Cronky Valley Straight.
Spits out window.
It spits out the window.
Oh, well, where do you want me to
That's
spit?
There we go, and your time is.
that's-
And I tell you what, we have no. Bloody hell, they're busy on the
it's
airport
funny.
tonight, aren't they?
It's funny here, with all the noise restrictions and stuff, and then it's like 11:30 at night,
Yeah.
and we've got like jumbo jets literally right above our head. It's literally ridiculous.
It's fantastic.
Right, I'll get the picture.
So did it do any good or did it do terrible?
I think
So,
you
you-
did honestly crap.
206.
So
I think.
better than what I did. There you are.
I'll grab a.
Oh, but
Yeah,
I crashed. I crashed.
I crashed.
Sorry.
There we go. Oh, but I tell you what, we're gonna have to definitely get you on. You can just definitely, you can without a doubt chat. Like,
See, I've got
tell.
anxiety now because I feel like there's loads of questions we didn't answer
That's
properly.
What,
What's
oh,
better is
all
loads
right,
of-
we'll have you back.
If
We'll have you back.
if there's one thing that you would like to, one like topic that you would like to talk about right now to finish on, but that we haven't covered so far, what would it be? Is there anything that you think?
Oh, I know.
we should-
We covered all the juicy stuff.
yeah, we've got all the best
Um,
bits.
There was a couple of things that come to mind during. I was like, oh, I should have really said that. But I've brushed over them all.
See,
now.
the good thing is, I think, in my opinion, like the revisit with guests, because like this is like.
Oh,
yeah,
I
this
know
is-
what it is.
Here
I
we
know
go.
what it is.
Go on, then.
I know what it is. The thing
Not
that
gonna-
grinds me, right? Peter Hickman stole my newcomers lap record, but he had a super sport bike, a super stock bike, and he rode his super stock bike in the superbike race because he preferred the super stock bike, I think, or something like that, for some reason. So he got a whole week of practice, rode the first race, the second race, the third race, the fourth race, and then the fifth race to beat my time. I did it in the first race. So how fast did he go? Let's get it clear. Now, Pete, obviously, I don't. Pete, no, there
Pete's a
doesn't-
135 man. So
yeah, all right. So I'm not taking anything away from Pete. All right, really, I'm not. But if I could claim a little bit of respect back, I did my lap time as a newcomer in the first race.
I didn't actually know that. And that
I
is,
did it in the first race.
it's a lot more-
So
it
let's
is a lot
compare
more
each other in the first race that we did.
do you know, out of the BSB grid, do you
Finish it.
have any good mates? Do you socialise with any of the other riders, or do you keep
No,
sort
because
of
this
working?
is like on the same path as we were on before. Obviously, I didn't get on that well with Scott, but I can't really get on with anybody because even if they were really good people, I've got to race against them. So I really struggle, and I'm happy in my own company. You know, what I mean, I don't like. Corona lockdown was perfect for me because I just stayed in the garage like I always do. I didn't even notice the world had changed. But I get on. I get on pretty good. Me and when I see him, me and Danny Buchan have a bit of banter. You know, he's pretty funny. Try and rip each other, and it spills into Twitter every now and then. We have a bit of a dig at each other, and then the crowd kind of gets on one person's side or the other, and it's not actually meaningful. It's just like us joking, but people tend to take sides. But Tommy Bridewell as well, like because We like motocross. We like riding bikes. We like, all similar things. We kind of get on. I actually really didn't like Tommy. I think it's because we're similar in so many ways. When I first come to BSB, I just sort of like, when no one's ever done anything, but you just take a begrudge to them straight away, like kind of like how I was with you.
Still are.
No, Tommy was like that. When I didn't know him, I didn't know anything about him, but I just took this instant begrudge to Tommy. I just thought he was just a jerk or something about him. And then once we got to know each other, we were so much more alike than we realised, and now we get on quite well. But again, we both struggle with each other because of the rivalry thing. We're both in the same championship on the same bikes, and there's this solid like rivalry that builds between us. So, but we must be pretty good mates for us to break through that rivalry and still be friendly. So
there we go.
Well, I think that's a good place to end, and a massively, I just want to say a huge good luck, not just for this weekend, but for this year.
Yeah.
I hope it goes really well. And
thank you for the pair of us coming on the show. There's always a home at chasing the racing. Obviously, get back and fill another 3 hours.
No, thanks for having us on. It's really, like I said, I like what you guys are doing. I haven't seen all the episodes, obviously. You got so many, so you're obviously doing something good to be going for that long. It hasn't crashed out and stopped yet. But I think that speaks
stubbornness more than anything.
I think that speaks for itself. But yeah, I just listened and seen a few of the episodes, and then I thought, well, why can't I be on that? You know what I mean? It was kind of like forgetting that you're at the top of the superbikes for a second and thinking I should be on it. I kind of went into this like kid growing up in the suburbs of Sydney and thinking, I'd like to be on that program.
Well,
and
thank
then,
you very much.
so here I am.
Oh, by the way, you were talking about messaging Dom and getting paid. I did actually message you ages ago on
Get
Instagram.
in, Chrissy. Get
Instagram and go, because I did actually ask you to come on months ago. But yeah.
I see. Calm as a bitch, Josh.
Anyway,
1 for 1. We're even. We're even.
all good.
On that note, all the best. Thanks
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on the show, and
Signing the helmet?
we'll do that straight
Bill
after.
and cancel in there, so brilliant.
Okay, thanks guys.
Cheers.
Catch you later.